Yo, Saturnalia! How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Drawing Down the Stars in our Saturnalia party. Today with us so far, we have Dion, we have Mandy, we have the occult examiner, Buffy. Yo, Saturnalia, everyone. So as you can see, Mandy is fully set up for his role as the Lord of Misrule. He's got his costumes. He's got his bag of tricks. We're going to be being silly all day today. Dion is at his garden set. He's got his wonderful plants, and he's going to be making a pesto for us later in the day. Buffy's going to be making margaritas, and more people will be joining us as we go on. So how is everyone?
Life is fantastic. Awesomeness. Gorgiosity.
Gorgeous gorgiosity, as Ammon would say.
Let's get this party started, y'all. Let's do it.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to join who's present in the live stream, there is a link that I have starred at the top of the page. Feel free to pop in and out. We're going to be going all day, just having some fun and being silly, talking about Saturnalia. So what do you guys know about the Saturnalia festival?
December 17th. That's what I know.
I know that lectures are forbidden. So if you want to come into this dojo and lecture, not today. I'm going to cut you off. I brought a suckling pig, and the suckling pig's going to cut you off because we're not allowed to sacrifice you if you're lecturing. So we're going to have the pig be the sacrificial suckling pig. So you come in here, you start trying to lecture, you're getting cut off.
All right. Well, I do want to do one thing here is read a couple hymns for the occasion to get everything started. So here we have our Lord Saturn himself. This is the time when we would unbind him. In the original Roman setup, they would take the giant statue of Saturn, which would normally be bound in wool, and they would undo his wool bounds, and they would fill the statue to the brim with olive oil. And then they would take him and they would lay him onto a reclining couch in the center of the temple so that he could participate and enjoy all the festivities. So to begin, we're going to read the Orphic hymn to Saturn. And the fumigation from Storax. We don't actually know what Storax is. There's a modern bush that's called Storax, but we don't think it's the same. But here we go. Ethereal Father, mighty Titan, hear. Great fire of gods and men whom all revere. Endued with various counsel, pure and strong, to whom perfection and decrees belong. Consumed by thee all forms that hourly die, by thee restored, their former place supply. The world immense and everlasting chains, strong and ineffable, thy power contains. Father of vast eternity divine, almighty Saturn, various speech is thine. Blossom of earth and of the starry skies, husband of Rhea and Prometheus' wife. Obstetric nature, venerable root, from which the various forms of being shoot. No parts peculiar can thy power enclose, diffused through all from which the world arose. O best of beings of a subtle mind, propitious here to holy prayers inclined. The sacred rites benevolent attend, and a blameless life, a blessed end. Yo, Saturnalia. Love it.
I love it.
We're getting silly. We're being crazy. We're having fun today. Today is a time for merrymaking, for gift giving, for the upsetting of the poles. And as such, Dion and I are the slaves today. And Mandy, our Lord of Misrule, until we choose a princeps, you're in charge. So,
my first dictate is that there's a name for the cloth which Saturn was bound with, and that is called the towel of Minerva. And I think that needs to be recognized, and it can't go. I'm surprised that we went so far into this without that being recognized. We're already 5 minutes in. And we disrespected the towel of Minerva by not recognizing that it played an important role in this entire festivity, and perhaps the most important role. It was what bound him for the entire year, and he was unleashed via the towel of Minerva, and all of these festivities happen after that. So
that's very true,
and we need to use the proper name for it.
All right. We unbound Saturn with the towel of Minerva. All praise to Athena Minerva, and thank you for your towel.
Thank you for your towel.
And those of you who don't know, Mandy has an incredible book called The Towel of Minerva. In reference
Look at the hat.
sacred vines.
Peep the hat.
Look at the hat. Yes, he's wearing the sacred hat, that traditionally all of the people would be wearing that particular type of hat. It's I'm trying to remember the name for it. It's it's slipping my head, but it's a sign of rebellion and freedom. When they would grant slaves freedom, they would shave their heads and give them one of these hats. It's also the hat you see on Orpheus. It's the hat you see on Mithras. It was also a major image during the French Revolution as well, eh, Mandy?
Absolutely. And, the Cerberisian school of cynicism, we believe in being dog-like, and we believe in being a particular dog, and that dog is Cerberus. We believe all triads throughout time, forever, have and always will be Cerberus in one way or another incarnate. It's all a misunderstanding from somebody most likely on an acid trip who doesn't understand and doesn't have ears to hear to recognize that any triad throughout history is actually Cerberus. So the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, that was Cerberus. The one that started the Trojan War. Which one was that? It was Hera and Athena and
Aphrodite.
Aphrodite, yeah. That was actually Cerberus incarnate as well. But Paris was on a trip and he didn't recognize that. I think that I'm surprised that more people don't recognize that Paris was actually on a trip. He was imbibing on some entheogens there. And the thing that entheogens do is that they destroy duality and create a triad. And that triad is always Cerberus, because Cerberus is what allows you to come back You have to know how to overcome Cerberus to come back, right? So Cerberus lets you in, he also lets you out. And the trip back is also always the most important part, So
why does then I want to get your opinion on this, because Pluton, Hades, Bacchus, they're a notorious kind of grumpy figure when anyone wants to leave the underworld, except for Heracles, who asks to take Cerberus with him, and he agrees. Why?
That's the mystery. You have to imbibe in the kykeon properly, and the only thing that can actually allow you to do that is the proper initiation into the Cerberisian school of cynicism, where you can guide yourself through that trip and how to not only get past Cerberus but bring him with you. That is the real esoteric knowledge there. You can get down. Everybody can get down. It takes a certain type of person to get back. It also takes a certain type of person to bring Cerberus with them. So there's real deep wisdom there. And, we just created a pseudo triad there accidentally, because all triads, it's just there once you start looking at this stuff.
Yeah, they're everywhere, right? It's always triads. How's it going, Dion? I see you got the wine coming.
Well, I haven't started the wine yet. I did a spritzer with blood orange, some seltzer water, Pellegrino, and some grapes here.
Amazing.
Hey, do you know what's responsible for blood oranges being red?
I'm sure you're going to tell us.
I'm going to. It's the same chemical that is present in raspberries. I don't know the name of it because I'm not a scientist. I'm a farmer. But the same thing. This is actually true. I'm not making this up because I'm allowed to give lectures. It's actually true. The universe smells like raspberries as well. So blood oranges are one of the most cosmic fruits that you can get. So imbibing in in blood orange today is actually it's really appropriate. And citrus is a winter fruit. So you can get your dose of the universe in the middle of the winter by partaking in blood oranges.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I
Hey.
want to
That's
give a
awesome.
shout out.
I
Oh, go ahead,
intuitively
Beth.
knew to do cranberry orange sourdough cookies. Cranberry orange sourdough cookies. Yeah, so I'm in line with the season. Yay.
Beautiful. I love that. Oof, lovely cookies. I want to give a shout out to Flatus Imperius, who told us it was a Phrygian cap. Also, Yellow Psych is saying that Cerberus ate his homework. What do you say, Lord of Misrule?
Cerberus ate your homework in the past, the present, and in the future. He ate it 3 times. You just saw it once.
well, he will continue to eat your homework.
It's an ever unfolding eating of homework. Your homework will never be finished. It's always in perpetuity the food of Cerberus.
It's been sacrificed. It's part of the ritual.
It's part of the rituals, and today we get lots of crazy rituals and lots of fun. After the first hour, once more people start to join, we're going to be choosing a princeps, the king for a day. They get to boss Dion and I around. We get to become the slaves, and they get to set the order of events. And we'll be rolling some dice to determine who that is. The only person that they don't get to boss around is our Lord of Misrule, Mandy. Too funny, too funny. I love it. Well, we also have a couple more hymns here if we want to read. What do you guys think?
Oh, go for it. I'm going to get my crostini out of the oven.
Amazing. Because it's more than just Saturn today. We know that on the 19th is the special day for Saturn's cohort, his partner in crime, his better half, the goddess Rhea, Cybele, Magna Mater herself. So since we're doing this today and not going to the 19th, I'm going to read this now, but you should all be also worshiping Rhea. They're two sides of the same coin. So this is the Orphic hymn to Rhea. From the fumigation from aromatics, daughter of great Protagonus divine, illustrious Rhea, to my prayer incline, who drivest the holy car with speed along, drawn by fierce lions, terrible and strong, mother of Jove, whose mighty arm wield the avenging bolt, and shake the dreadful shield, drum beating, frantic of a splendid mien, brass sounding honored, Saturn's blessed queen. Thou joyest in the mountains, in tumultuous fight, and mankind's horrid howlings thee delight. War parent, mighty majestic frame, deceitful savior, liberating dame, mother of gods and men, from whom the earth and lofty heavens derive their glorious birth. The ethereal gales, the deeply spreading sea goddess, aerial formed, proceed from thee. Come pleased with wanderings, blessed and divine, with peace attended on our labors shine. Bring rich abundance, and wherever found, drive dire disease to earth remotest bound. All hail Rhea.
Hail Rhea!
And I got something I just want to grab here. I have the sacred instrument of Rhea, the timbalon, which is also one of the passwords. So love it, love it. So we're just waiting on Dion. Dion is going and he's doing some cooking. And he's going to be getting his crostinis out of the oven. We also want to give shout outs today to another special deity, which is Saturn Reborn. That is his great son, the ever dying and rising vine, Dionysus, right? The black sun. As we know in the Saturnalia from Macrobius, when the sun goes to the bounds of the earth, it is Dionysus, the black sun himself. So I will read this, the Orphic hymn to Bacchus. The fumigation from Storax. Bacchus, I call loud, sounding, and divine. Fanatic God, a twofold shape is thine. Thy various names and attributes I sing, O firstborn, thrice begotten, Bacchic king. Rural and effable, two-formed obscure, two-horned with ivy crowned, a Euon pure. Bull-faced and martial, bearer of the vine, endowed with counsel prudent and divine. Triennial, whom the leaves of vines adorn, of Jove and Proserpine, occulti born. Immortal daemon, hear my suppliant voice. Give me in blameless plenty to rejoice, and listen, gracious, to my mystic prayer, sounded with thy choir of nurses fair. Hail Bacchus. Gotta love that sacrificial pig. It's doing a lot of work today.
It's as ethical of a sacrifice that we can make.
Yeah, right.
I personally sacrificed $3.50.
About a tree fitty.
Another tree fitty.
Love it, love it, love it. So Mandy, you're committing a faux pas today, but you're the Lord of the Misrule, so you get to do it. You're wearing a toga. We know from the epigrams of Martial, you're not supposed to wear togas. You're supposed to dress in the Greek fashion. Oh, this is funny. So we got a comment here I just want to read. This is off topic, but I want to go to the parallel universe where Digimon is more popular than Pokemon, where it takes its place. If I had a time machine, that would be the first thing I'd change. What are your thoughts on Digimon versus Pokemon?
I really like the holographic ones. Those were really cool back in the day. I didn't remember any of their names or anything.
I just remember I have a thing for songs, and I just remember the various theme songs from the two shows. And I don't know, what is the Pokemon rap better than the Digimon Digital Monsters theme? I think it may be. I don't know.
It's all too Apollonian for my taste.
Too Apollonian. Yeah, we're here for Dionysian stuff, you know?
Yeah. I want to know that, like, I mean, Mew was pretty cool, I guess. Mew, that was pretty cool. Then the whole Mewtwo thing, and then the whole Mew3 thing. There was an implied Mew3 if you have a Mewtwo. And that's actually Katma, not dogma, which is pretty cool.
Katma. What do you mean by Katma? This isn't coming in your new book. Tell us about this.
Oh, it's just the opposite of dogma.
Ridiculous. So
you have
funny.
my ear. I am intrigued. So, as the sole lecturer of the day, please, Mandy, enlighten me on the Katma.
It's just the opposite of dogma. Ironically, in the Cerberus school of cynicism, we claim that nothing that we say is dogma. Unironically, everything we may say is Katma.
Tell us about your school of thought here, your Cerberisian school that you keep referencing.
It's just a logical conclusion of logical progression, I guess, not the conclusion. Obviously, I don't believe in conclusions, but the logical progression. Ironically, I don't believe in progress either. The logical evolution, adaptation, whatever logic. It's not real, but it's the we're just picking up where Diogenes left off, right? Diogenes was in a time and of a headspace where he couldn't recognize that all triads were in fact Cerberus. If he did, he would have been, a lot further along with his cynicism. His cynicism would have been perfect. It was perfectly ironic and wonderful and suited its time, but it was lacking in the wisdom that all triads are Cerberus. And he could have really crushed every single one of his naysayers and all the so-called philosophers of his time had he been able to just demonstrate this. But there is actually a play by Aristophanes in which this is made explicit. Essentially, the name loosely translates to Diogenes at night with what are the names of the dogs? It's Tuna Tooth and the Furball. Now I don't know how to actually say those in Greek, but that's roughly what they translate to.
And one of them is Spot too, isn't it?
No. Well, so this is actually the Cerberesian component of it. Aristophanes recognized this and made fun of Diogenes for not recognizing this. So at one point, Diogenes is walking his dogs, Tuna Tooth and the Furball. That's roughly what it is, the Furball, and that's obviously a sexual innuendo going on there. You know what I mean? Tuna Tooth and the Furball. I'm surprised Carl Ruck didn't already explain that to us, but I don't think he's actually seen this because it's been lost to time and it's only maintained in the Bible. And some people speculate that this particular play by Aristophanes is actually what biblical scholars call the Q document. But anyways, at one point in this Aristophanes play, Diogenes takes his two dogs out to walk, and he's confronted with the goddess Eris, the goddess of discord and confusion and all chaos and all of those things. And Eris explains to Diogenes that he's stupid for not recognizing this because he was so close to the dog-like thing. He smelt Hecate because he was from Turkey and he could recognize that. He was right on the border of Medea, so he recognized all the wisdom in there. He didn't complete the triad by understanding that Eris is also involved, because that triad would have turned his dog-like cynicism into Cerberesian cynicism, and it would have been amazing. But he didn't do that. Now, at one point, Eris explains all of this to him, and Diogenes does his Diogenes thing, and he makes a joke, right? The joke is not translated because it's not kept, but it was a very dirty joke, and it offended Eris so much that she sack-tapped him right in the balls, brought him down to the level of his dogs. And when Diogenes was at the level of his dogs, he recognized the triad that himself and his two dogs were, in fact, Cerberus. All of this is lost into time now. It wasn't kept, but it was maintained in the Bible in this particular one, this particular verse in Mark, where there's this naked slave boy and a bandage and all of those things. The bandage was actually what Diogenes used to medicate his parts, his nutsack, because Eris slapped him in his golden apples so hard that she cracked them. So Diogenes, in the garden already with his dogs, he used a little bit of Cerberesian foam, made a bandage, and wrapped it around himself, right? And on the walk home, it fell off, and then it was a very dramatic moment, and that's how the play closes. But this is maintained in the Gospel of Mark if you have ears to hear, and you can recognize the Cerberesian themes that are going on throughout. The Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Yeah, it's all Cerberus.
Too funny. This makes me think of when we were talking about the origin of satire on our live stream, and Archilochus, right? He's invoking Cerberus in his satire, which is pretty wild. And for those who don't know, Archilochus was the very first person to do the satire. He took the phallic song and he transformed it into poetic verse in music in order to defend his honor, because he was promised a bride and he paid a dowry, but then they weren't going to honor it because he was lowborn. They found out, well, he told everyone that his mother was a slave, and they didn't want him to get married. So he wrote this incredibly vicious satire that caused the father and the daughter that he was engaged to commit suicide.
Father and two of the daughters. There was a triad there.
Right.
It was Cerberus the whole time. He was able to put Cerberus to sleep. That's the message of that.
You think?
His story lives on.
That's true. It does live on, right? He survived the test of time, and he was blessed by Apollo, and they had a hero cult to him. And it was only in the Christian era that he lost his relevance, because he was considered akin to Homer, one of the greatest of the poets to ever have lived. It's kind of too bad that Archilochus hasn't survived to us in all of his deranged intensity.
It would be amazing to see what you would be able to pull out of those texts if they were maintained in their entirety, because what we have is so fragmentary and so a lot of it's so censored that what did they actually, the people that witnessed this satire, they were getting the inside jokes and the the puns and all that stuff that have to be like teased out of it by people who have been reading Greek for their entire lives and haven't been, polluted by the Greeks weren't on drugs thing, because that really pollutes your thoughts and limits what it's a self-censorship when you're a classical philologist. You know what I mean? That's part of the part of the thing that makes academia so funny and laughable. They're just word clowns if they're not actually taking seriously the mindset that these people were in. So for the most part, if they are arguing that drugs weren't involved, their work can pretty much be thrown out entirely, because it's
10,000%.
just them putting on clown makeup and a red nose going honk honk honk, look at me. Jesus wasn't Cerberus. There wasn't a naked boy in that garden. He didn't have a medicated bandage wrapped around his penis. And it didn't have anything to do with Diogenes.
Wild. How's it going, Dion? How is your crostinis coming?
Oh, very good. Next, I'm doing some broccoli.
Oh,
some
wonderful.
baby broccoli, or what do you call it? Broccoli Rob.
Broccolini.
Tell us about this herb that you have right there that's next to you. What is that called?
This is a LCG, lemon cherry gelato.
Ah,
good choice.
And this is basil, fresh basil for the pesto.
We had
I'll
some
do a
people in the comments
Ligurian,
admiring your lemon tree.
A Ligurian Genovese pesto style with the pine nuts and the basil and some Parmigiano Reggiano cheese.
People are jealous of your Garden of Eden, and they were admiring your lemon tree. So we got to give props to your incredible bounty that you get to experience in California.
Well, I live in the ghetto. If we went outside the house, it'd be a different story.
That's true, right? Yeah, you grew up in the heart of LA, so you've gotten that full experience.
Hey, but wherever you're at, it could be paradise. That's the point. If I got 10 feet of space, that's all I need,
Dion, you're in the thick of it. Let me ask you about your experience growing up with what is called the dozens. The rap battling and making fun of each other, and telling your mama jokes and all that stuff in the hood as a way to maintain your pride and all of that, because that is actually what the name satire derives from, because it's what these kids used to do outside the adults' room, because they weren't invited into the party like we are. So when they were outside, they were making fun of each other, and they were literally rap battling each other. They were doing poetry battles and telling your mom jokes and making fun of how small your their penis is, and your mom was a whore, and every joke that we still have, they were doing these to each other back in the day when they were kids growing up.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is, they get gangster with it.
Some of them did. Some of them did. Somebody insulted Jesus's mom and said your mom was a wreath maker, and you see how that turned out.
The swords come out.
Yeah, you called my
Somebody's
mom a wreath
ear
maker?
gets cut off.
Uh-huh.
I think of the stuff we see in the Arabic tradition, where they would have like actual warfare, basically, where you'd have groups of these guys battling each other, and they would do these poems in order to prevent warfare, and the winner got to put their gods into the Kaaba and got to drape their poetry over the Kaaba. And you still see this to this day, because apparently, we don't know if this is true, but the Muslims claim that Muhammad won one of these rap battles. It's pretty wild stuff. But yeah, satire comes out of the Dirty Dozens, basically. We were talking about Hipponax before, and Hipponax is pretty. You showed me that he actually invented a word for stopping mid-meal to go and take a shit.
Yeah, I wish the doctor was here so we could have him actually pronounce that word for us, so we could see experience what that word sounds like, because that language wasn't meant to be read inside your head. It was meant to be read out loud. So I really wonder what that word feels like to hear, because it literally, he invented the word to stop mid-meal and go take a dump so that you can make space to eat more. that's amazing. And that's a joke. Like, he's a satirist. So like so much of this stuff is like childish humor about like poop jokes and dick jokes and, you know, sex jokes and all of that stuff. And tons of drug jokes included, you know. I was looking up some recipes today about like what sort of food they would have served at these festivals, because, you know, I'm a chef and I'm inclined to research that sort of thing. And right away Hippanax pops up, and he has he said something about you know, drug laced pancakes that they would serve at these things. Like, what? They were drugging the pancakes? Like, how did they put the drugs in there? He said it had something to do with sesame seeds, but like, he literally said that they were drug-laced pancakes. It's amazing. Like, and he's a satirist, so he can get away with giving away some of those secrets. But like, you know,
the sesame is code. It's like Timbaland. I'm not sure what they're referencing, but it's listed as one of the passwords. This is why you get that phrase "open sesame" that has survived to us. It's a Dionysian password for getting into the underworld. So just like the
and I got a question for you. Were those wheat pancakes? Were they made from flour? Was that ergotized wheat?
This is the thing that I wanted to pick your brain about. You know, how many different ways as a practitioner of this stuff can you incorporate drugs into your meal? You know, because if you look at the way that the Romans were eating at these festivals and stuff, they were essentially like having a little bit of this with a little bit of this sauce, and a little of this with a little bit of that sauce, a little of this with that sauce, and like mixing these different sauces. And they would, you know, make like little hand foods and coat them in like honey and stuff. And you and I know that honey was wild. It was with mad honey, and honey that, you know, would make you lose your mind. So, you know, they were encoding all this stuff into the recipes, but not being explicit about it. And you smelled exactly what I smelled about the sesame seeds. Like, he wasn't serious about this being sesame. They were drugged. The pancakes were drugs. Like, they were putting drugs in these pancakes and eating them. And like, that's what they were like. They were taking these pancakes and then putting like meat and stuff, but the pancakes had drugs in them. So they were making these little egg rolls that were drug egg rolls, or little drug tacos, and just like walking around eating these things. It was amazing.
I think it must be something kind of like the injera bread, where they're using it, you know, to scoop other food, and like,
yep.
And it's basically just like a drug vessel for whatever they're eating.
Exactly. You know, there were drugs in like the spreads, drugs in the sauces. You know, they would have all sorts of fermentation things that they would do to bring drugs out into these things. So, you know, I just find it fascinating knowing that all of this stuff had drugs in it, and like some of the stuff that some of the people who research the food trip up on, trying to like have weird explanations for it. It's like, well, yeah, you don't know what they were doing, because they were doing drugs with their food. It's like everything is like laced like you bring pot brownies to a party, except everything is that, you know, the cookies have weed in them, the cheesecake has weed in it. It's like everything.
That was my wedding reception. We married on 4/20. That was us.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got there, Dion? What'd you go grab?
We got a special request on screen. Can you read that for me?
So this is from Yellow Psych. He says, and this is Perot in the Discord, so you guys know. He says, "Hey guys, Saturn is trying to kick my ass. Can you tell him to stop?"
Well, I got some sage. I got something for you. I got some sage I went and got right here. But I got the blowtorch to light this industrial strength for your Saturnian ass right there.
I want to say the beatings will persist until morale improves.
Leave my people alone. Go in peace, my friend. Saturn ain't gonna fuck with you no more.
There you go.
We got that.
We need that. We're about to enter into a Saturn retrograde too, so things are about to get crazy.
And not just Yellow Psych. Anybody else out there getting your ass kicked right now? That shit's gone. Let that go for the new year. Let it go.
When do we go into retro?
When do we go? Oh, I should check this out. I should take a look. Let me see. What is the date that we go into retrograde? Let's see here. Saturn retrograde. June 17th. So it's not for a little bit, but it's coming. We're in the middle of the Mercury retrograde right now.
We just need to walk backwards in counterclockwise motion, releasing our, doing the purges as we go. Just walk backwards. It's okay. Counterclockwise. Keep going. It'll work.
When you say the purges, you mean the walking farts where you're
Yes.
Okay. I was just making sure. I'm just making
You
sure.
nailed that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just making sure that we're on the same page. We're talking fumigation again. Great.
But yeah, going back to Hipponax is such a fun character. When we were doing our Saturn or our satire live stream, and I was looking into him, modern scholars even doubt if he was ugly or not, because he is the source of all of the claims about how ugly he is, and all of the satirists would constantly shame themselves. So, but he did apparently get scapegoated. So. Which is he got selected for removal from the city, in order to end the ills of a city,
Hipponax said that he looked like this guy.
Yeah.
So he's the sacrificial pig. He's hip hop Hipponax. Look at him. Hip-hop Hipponax. He doesn't say calm down. He says relax. Look at that. Look at him. He's rapping. Poetry.
Yeah, they were definitely rapping, right? It was a whole musical form. And Archilochus, we know, was he was the head of the cult of Demeter after his father passed. And so he did this right, the first satire, in the middle of the festival to Demeter. So when everyone was present, he shamed them. And he took time and he created a whole new form. Like, that is some serious vitriol to sling.
Yeah, and I think it's there's some Medea coding in there, if you can recognize it, because there's a king who dies and two daughters that die, and the whole those being that he was fluent in this Demeter thing, and that was his mindset. The whole thing is that they weren't able to return, right? So it was even more coming from them that his words made them kill themselves. And he knows how to make them come back, and he's not going to let them, right? Like, he's not giving them the wisdom on how to come back. He's poisoning them so much that they're doomed forever. They can't come back.
I didn't even consider that part, because you're right. As the high priestess of Demeter, right? He has the power to cause people to come back from the underworld. Uh-huh. He brings back the Korra every season. So
exactly. Wow. Yeah, the magic there is even more powerful when you recognize like the mindset that the people themselves had when they're witnessing that magic. They would have recognized like, oh, this guy's not letting them come back, and that's real powerful stuff.
Do you know about this in your research at all, Mandy? He says, wasn't this also an Olympic sport, satire or the battle rapping? Excuse me.
I don't know much about the Olympics. I call it all gluten-free bread and circus. It's not really my thing. It's meant to distract you, Sorry, I wish I knew more about the Olympics and the sports stuff. I focused on the food and the drugs and the jokes, and was kind of always looking for the poop jokes and the dick jokes that other people weren't seeing, because it kind of makes the context a lot funnier. That, like, if you turn the page and you see the poop joke next, it kind of disarms a lot of the power that your wisdom really has, because like all of this stuff that you're seeing and like got translated and all of this that you're focusing on, right immediately after there's a dick joke, and you didn't catch the dick joke and the poop joke. It's all there, and that's meant to like really like disarm the to make it seem that like, it's not all so serious, right? It's all, I call it metaphysical, metaphorical hyper poop, right? Like that's what all of your ideas are covered in. And if you take this stuff really, really seriously and you don't wash your vegetables and you don't wash your hands and you don't wash your mind, you're going to end up with metaphysical, metaphorical hyperfood poisoning, right? And that's to a certain extent, that's on you. You know what I mean? You get yourself sick once, that's, like you didn't wash your hands, you had a violent time, and you purge that from you learn to wash your hands next time. But I mean, how many times can you give yourself metaphorical, metaphysical hyperfood poisoning? It's just, you're doing damage to your soul.
You just referenced one of the greatest jokes, one of the most famous jokes of all time. So can you tell the joke of Diogenes, Socrates, and the washing of vegetables, please?
Oh, it was Diogenes and Plato.
Oh, sorry. Plato.
Yeah. So so Plato's walking down the street. Oh, check that out. Is that broccoli?
Yeah, I'm putting some baby broccoli, and I'm gonna throw some carrots from the garden in, just showing y'all.
I am so jealous right now. You're making me hungry. I want some broccoli rabe.
That's amazing. Check that out. All right, so Plato's walking down the street one day, and he looks over into the river, as you do because you're Plato, and you kind of wander off, and you get distracted by a leaf, and that leaf trails you over to the river, and you go, oh wow, Diogenes, he's washing vegetables in the river. He doesn't even wash his own body. What's he doing washing vegetables? So you kind of, first thing you're going to do as a jock like Plato was is to start making fun of the guy, right? You don't know Plato was a jock. He was a wrestler. He was, Plato was, he was one to be a wrestler. So he's this big, strong, like might makes right kind of dude. So, he's trying to make fun of Diogenes, and he's kind of flexing while he's doing it. You have to picture Plato kind of like,
always flexing
while he's doing this stuff, while he's making fun of him. So he's flexing. He's not actually looking at Diogenes. He's looking at his reflection in the mirror, in the river, and Diogenes is just kind of there. So he's like, Diogenes, why are you washing vegetables? If you just, paid your dues to the king, you wouldn't have to wash vegetables, buddy. And Diogenes looks up and he goes, man, if you just wash vegetables in the river, you wouldn't have to pay dues to the king.
So good. You got to love Diogenes. Forever the free man, forever a man of his own. The absolute individual who masturbated and pissed and shit in public. The dog himself.
But he washed his vegetables.
Yep.
He had the wisdom, the forethought to wash the vegetables. Like, where that stuff is grown? In poop.
Right.
It's grown in poop. So, you're going to want to wash that poop off before you eat it because you're eating poop. Like, what are you doing? Like, so he's over there like, yeah, all the people that make it so that you don't eat poop, they're washing your stuff for you. If you would know that, you wouldn't have all these dumb ideas about what kind of food people are supposed to eat if you had actually had the experience of washing the vegetables and smelling the poop that all this stuff is grown in.
That's such a good point. My favorite Diogenes line, there's no better place to spit, or there's no place to spit in a rich man's house but his face. And Diogenes very much was a satirist philosopher in the same line as Socrates. Unfortunately, Plato has kind of diminished the gadfly himself and kind of, got rid of a lot of that bite that Socrates truly had, and he largely survives to us, not only but largely in these retellings that Plato created. But I don't think Plato really fully got what Socrates was on. Otherwise, he wouldn't be calling a two-legged biped a man.
Yeah, no. I think it's all, the whole footnote to Plato thing. It's like, Plato's feet probably smelled really bad. So why are you going around sniffing around there? You know what I mean? Just saying. I mean, he didn't even put his feet in the river. Come on now, buddy. And when he did, yeah, he was up to some weird stuff. But where Diogenes is from, right?
Turkey.
He's from Turkey, right? And if you grow up in that space as opposed to growing up in the Greek space, take a look at from an anthropological view what that actually entails, right? So he's a foreigner in this place, and he's over here making fun of all of these people, right? And at one point he was enslaved. His dad, this is a great, I don't know why more people don't mention this with the Jesus Diogenes connection, but his dad was in charge of the bank, in charge of the coinage in Turkey, and there was a big scandal about defacing the currency and stuff, and that's why he got sent to Greece. Or something like that. Don't take me seriously. I'm joking here. I'm actually lecturing. I should probably stop myself. But there's all this connection here with about sorry, what you were saying? I was being serious.
We are just seriously laughing at you. Sorry, you get that pig out. Okay.
Sorry. Amazing.
But anyway, I made this Diogenes and Hecate and Medea connection through the dogs, and I smell it through that. And he took that stuff to Turkey, and I think, or to Greece, and I think a lot of the dog mythology and the dog symbolism and the occult meaning of the dogness is lost. He's making constant reference to Hecate and constant reference to Medea for those with ears to hear, and he wasn't finding people that had ears to hear. You know what I mean? So he went out in the daylight with a lamp, couldn't find anybody. You know what I mean? Like he was speaking to those who had ears to hear, and he couldn't find anybody close to him that had it. So he was proving some points about what we should actually take as wisdom coming from these people, and what we should take as jokes, because he was making fun of them to their faces the whole time, and they weren't getting it.
That reminds me of the hermit card. Very much the hermit card, because in some depictions of the hermit card, there is the dog. Sometimes it's the same dog that's in the fool card.
And he's always carrying the lamp, right? I also think about what was I going to say? Like a lot of this stuff with the satirists and with like Diogenes, it really reminds me of a lot of the philosophy of the East that we get, where you have all of this mysticism, where enlightenment can't be fully understood. Hey there, Eric. How's it going? Thanks for joining the party. Oh, you're on mute, my friend. You're on mute, my friend.
Hi, I just woke up from
Hello,
a nap.
Saturnalia.
Happy Saturnalia.
You just woke up from a nap? Well,
Yeah, I was like,
party.
it's late. Yeah.
Hey, Saturn just woke up from a nap too. We just got done biting his feet.
He was just unbound from the towel of Minerva. So now is the time for revelry and joy making and having a good time.
Yeah, I'm just I'm waiting for the kitchen to be empty, because I was gonna make lunch, but then because I have a lot of roommates, so we take turns. So like I fell asleep while waiting, and then somebody else took over.
Oh, gotta love it.
Yeah.
Oh, Gandhi's setting you up for a joke, Lord of Misrule. A dog walks into a brothel.
That's the oldest joke ever told. It's kept on a Sumerian tablet, and no one actually knows what it means. Like it's basically some dog just walks into a brothel, and there's words missing, and he like sees something, and there's a video on YouTube about it. But yeah, it's actually one of the oldest jokes that's maintained in writing.
That's hilarious, beautiful. Yeah, I think you showed me that video a couple months back.
I posted it in my on the Discord in the Mandy Cerberus.
In the Mandy tab.
Yeah,
I think it's for people who are interested. It's Trey the Explainer. I'll try to find it and share a link, but it's a good one.
The Trey the Explainer one is the oldest joke, which is the oldest reference of the.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Joke. This other one is actually from a historian. I can't remember the name of the creator, but if you're on the Discord, you can take a look at it in my tab. It's right there. It's worth watching. And it's funny that no one actually knows what the joke means, because like the context of what was funny to them, like they just have writing. You know what I mean? They don't have any of the other stuff around it.
Right.
They literally just have what the words what the letters mean when you connect them.
And how do you translate things like metaphor and,
exactly,
and analog, right?
Yeah, I interpreted it as like, imagine what this dog smelled when he walked into the brothel, because dogs, their primary sense of experience in the world is with their nose, not with their eyes. So if you maybe take a look at the joke, learn Sumerian and all that stuff, and learn the philology behind it and the culture and all that stuff, and follow your nose, maybe there's something worth finding there. But I don't know anything about Sumerian. I barely know anything about Greek. Everything I know about Greek is Nietzsche pilled anyway. So it's there's snares and traps that I learned how to avoid. You know what I mean?
Nietzsche's pretty good. He was a philologist and classicist extraordinaire. So
he also teaches you how to set, when you learn how to avoid the snares and traps, you can learn how to set them too. So that's, when you take the return trip and you go back, you can learn how to set the traps. That's fun.
So we're getting a question. Are y'all ready for wizard wine? Who's drinking today?
Oh, that's Billy Witch Doctor.
Oh, hey, Billy. Yeah, you're supposed to be joining at some point today, so that'll be exciting.
Did I send you the link? Let me see.
It's start at the top here. If anyone wants to hop in, it's the StreamYard link there at the top. It should be posted in the chat. And if people are on the Discord, it's also in the Yo Saturnalia section of our Discord. So, but yeah, how's it going, Eric? Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us. It's been okay. Been in and out of depression, but bowing through. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. I mean, this is the time of year when things get a little rough, which is why we got to invoke Saturn to bring the joy and the merriment.
Yeah.
Bring Bacchus back,
Definitely. You can't just sit on your depression all the time. Not indulge in that always.
No, we celebrate the fact that we lived till winter solstice. Okay, so if we can make it to winter solstice, the likelihood of us living to spring was pretty high. So there's a grand celebration there.
That's a good point.
Definitely.
Now's the time for merrymaking and being silly. No depression allowed.
No.
Say laughter is the best medicine. Does anybody have a joke for Eric? Somebody can tell a joke. Who's got a joke that'll make Eric laugh?
Oh gosh, you're putting us on the spot. You got to know one. You're the Lord of Misrule. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm allowed to tell you all you need to tell a joke. So somebody can Google a joke to tell Eric. Damn it! Somebody's got to have a joke off the top of their head. Knock knock.
I'm the joke.
Not witty.
You have a joke for us?
No, I was like, I'm the joke.
Oh, come on, bud.
Chat, if you have a joke, chat, please share.
Somebody in the chat's got to have a joke. I'm being ironic right now by not telling a joke. And I'm also ironically explaining that I'm being ironic. So,
well, I mean, we bombard the Discord with memes, so I think that's also kind of good. Like that, it's always nice.
Hey, Dion's back. Dion, do you have a joke for us? Can you tell us a joke?
Well,
Dion, so Eric is he's battling a little bit of depression, and laughter is the best medicine. So would you be able to give us a joke to help with our depression?
Well, I can impart some wisdom that my daddy taught me. And he always said, you could lead a horse to water, but a pencil must be lead.
What?
Oh, God.
No way.
That was cheesy.
No, that's what he used to tell me. And then I would start saying, what, and if, and you know what he would say? He'd say, well, if the frog would have had wings, it wouldn't have bumped its tail.
Wild. So we're joined by Billy Witch Doctor. Shout out to Billy Witch Doctor. Thanks for coming to the stream.
Of course. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, yo Saturnalia.
Happy Saturnalia.
You're making drinks? What do you got going on there?
So I got what we're calling wizard wine.
Awesome. What's in your wizard wine?
So this was inspired with a conversation with Mandy. I saw something called Wizard Punch, and I was like, what's in Wizard Punch? And Matt mentioned kickoff, which is a wine and honey and barley drink from ancient Greece. It was a little psychoactive, so I made my own version minus the psychoactive.
Oh.
Nice.
So, what we got is some crushed whole nutmeg, some allspice berries, crushed cinnamon sticks, whole clove, some dried ginger, some dried crushed rye berries, some crushed dried mint, and finally diced dried orange peel. So that's all going to go in some cheesecloth with this nice sweet red wine. We're going to let that sit for 20 minutes, and we're going to add some honey liqueur to fortify it at the end.
That sounds amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I'm gonna
Thank
get
you for
started
sharing.
with that. You guys continue. I'm gonna get this hack.
Awesome.
So, Snappy, let me ask you this: how many of these ingredients in Billy Witch Doctor's wizard wine here would have actually had psychoactive components? And like, if you were going to try to make it as psychoactive as you possibly could, what could you do to this recipe? Like, I know some of these, the aromatics would have actually been burnt and fumigated, so they would have covered their, they would have been in a tent covered in the towel of Minerva, and all of the fumigation would have been collected by the towel of Minerva. And then what I understand from Dion is they would have taken this towel and then incorporated that into, they would have used this as the cheesecloth, right? That Billy Witch Doctor was using here, and taken that saturated towel of Minerva that has generations and generations of fumigation, and use that to actually infuse into the wine. But what other methods could you use to make it as psychoactive as possible?
Wait a second. Did this guy just say that he's going to take the fumigation tent and use that to strain some yogurt to make some cheese?
Make some
That's
wine.
next level. And as it accumulates all that fumigation and the colors that's already in the fabric, and then you take the curds, the milk, the urine, the other psychoactives, the honey, and then you run that through that cloth instead of a cheesecloth. You run it through the fumigation cloth. I like that. Why not?
Has that idea ever crossed your mind? Because here's the thing: I'm a practitioner and an expert. I graduated top of my class from this culinary school, so I'm watching you guys. I'm taking notes. I'm like, all right, if you're gonna make it more psychoactive, what if you take this and use this the screen itself that's been fumigated to filter through, right? So you're taking some of these particulates, some of this matter that might make you sick, and you're running it through a thing that's going to impart a little bit more of this psychoactive ingredients. And Dion, so Billy Witch Doctor here, he's making essentially a mulled wine that has barley and rye and all of these things, and it's going to be finished with honey. And we want to know what can you do to make this mulled wine as psychoactive as possible?
Well, the nutmeg and the cinnamon by themselves, that I know of, people used as things to induce what are they called, abortions, in taking enough quantities. And the clove is a good analgesic, like an anesthetic too. So those three, the clove, the nutmeg, and the cinnamon by themselves, they are psychoactive.
Isn't cinnamon an aphrodisiac as well?
Yeah, it's burnt. It's burnt as incense for Aphrodite along with orange peel. Because I know there's a recipe for it's an incense that they make. It has rose petals, orange, cinnamon, and clove, because they're all aphrodisiacs.
Yeah, cinnamon was part of the spice trade. It was big time originally.
But
it is psychoactive.
the nutmeg has to be fresh though, like as fresh as you can, and it has to be like just when you get the little balls, you have to like do it by hand too. But you can eat them like that, and because if you get old nutmeg, it does not work. It decomposes. But if you do freshly grated nutmeg, it is very psychoactive.
Yeah, nutmeg will trip you out
Yeah.
hard. Go on Arrowhead and read some of those things, or and those of us who were kids during the 4chan era will remember all of the stupid kids trying fresh nutmeg and then winding up in the hospital. So that's some serious stuff. It's important we also point out that the cinnamon that we have today is not the cinnamon they had back then. They were using a different plant from India, and it is considered highly psychoactive in large amounts. And then, of course, we've got to mention the honey, right? We know that the honey they're using, they're not just taking the honey, they're boiling the entire hive, And this is honey that they would have been introducing to the ergotized wheat already. And it would also be often paired with various psychedelic plants that they would be having around. So the honey itself is also going to be an entheogen. Like this stuff is getting intense.
An interesting thing about when they would use it in these potions, for lack of a better word, where you're sort of boiling it, they would use the entire hive and the live bees as well. So the bees were venomous bees too. So they had the venom and all of the pollen and all of that stuff, and the larva too. So at the various stage of the larva, whatever's inside of their guts is also psychoactive because they're being fed that. So you're getting multiple stages as well as, actual venom in the final product as well.
And I was talking to you about this before, but there's even this speculation that they can have been using, there's a species of wasp called the vulture wasp, and sometimes it's colloquially called a bee. And this is notorious for eating carrion. And there's all of this mytho-poetic imagery about the bees nesting inside of cows. And the vulture bee will do this. They will purposefully nest inside of the cow, and also the gadfly. They would this term bee that we use was a lot more nuanced and different, so when they're talking about honey, they could actually be referring to taking of these hives, these wasp hives, out of these carcasses and then boiling them down into something that they could then infuse into their wines. Hey, old boy, thanks for joining. How's it going? Good to see you.
Hey, very well. I'm going all right, thank you. I hope everyone's great. Thanks for having me here.
Helen, welcome.
Sorry about the noise, guys. I dropped my drum. Excited to see you. Thanks for joining. We were just talking about making psychedelic drinks. Our buddy Billy Witch Doctor here, he's doing an inversion on the Kykeon, and he's been adding all kinds of herbs and whatnot. And we were talking about psychedelic honeys. I know that you're familiar with psychedelic honey that they were making in Scotland, right? What was the plant? Isn't it a heather or something that would be entheogenic that they'd use?
As for the psychedelic one, I'm not 100% sure which plant they were actually using, but they do make it from heather, and we also do have a lot of rhododendron as well in the areas. So there's a possibility that could have been used also. So it's an area that's on the list to study basically, because I want to track it down myself, because the symbology is definitely there in the Celtic mythology for sure.
Right. And we were just talking about, so there's this image that you see in the Bible and many of the Greek texts where these bees or flies or wasps or what have you are making nests inside of a bowl. And then they're taking this particular honey, they're boiling it down and creating it from that. Do you ever see that image where there's like a nest inside of carrion, specifically like a bowl?
It's not something I've come across personally at the moment, but I'll keep my eyes open. Definitely, now that I know that's a theme, I'll keep my eyes open for it, because there's definitely a lot of bovine stuff going on, and you've got the bees. So I'll just keep my eyes open for if I find anything of where they're mentioned together in such a way.
All boy. Right. I know it's our first time meeting you, but if I can give you a little bit of wisdom on Saturnalia while you're using your eyes to follow, be wise of your nose as well, and follow your nose. You'd be surprised the places that your nose can track you, because you can communicate things about your smell. You're always grasping because you can't actually literally describe the thing in of itself that you're smelling. It's impossible. So your only way of communicating smell is with poetry. So if you're fluent in the poetry of whatever language that you're in period of time that you're looking at and you're researching, if you take a look at what everyday people have to say about their sense of smell, you can find amazing things, because it's Dionysian poetry. It's everyday people poetry. It's the most cathartic poetry that you can communicate, is trying to describe what you're smelling.
No, that's quite profound, and when you think about it, you're right. It's activating that creative mindset to try and convey how you're processing the stimulus, I guess. So yeah, thanks for that. Very nice. Love it.
So you're right now in the heart of working on this comparative series of essays on comparing the Aesir to the Aesir. And what are your thoughts on the general kind of like Etruscan mythology? Do you see a lot of the similar kind of, we know that like I'm familiar with the Norse and I see all of this Dionysian, Median type imagery. Is it as present in the Etruscan?
Okay, so the areas that I'm mainly focused on that jumped out to me, because as soon as I saw the term for gods, Aesir, thought, you know, that's very interesting, because obviously there's everyone's mind will immediately jump to the Norse Aesir. So then I started looking into that, and I was, you know, wondering if there was an etymological link. And then I noticed that there was also the god Suri in the Etruscan, which means the black. And you actually have a deity in the Norse called Surtur, which also means the black as well. And they're both very similar in spelling, and they also have a similar meaning. So that kind of then got me even more interested. And you know, I'm not saying they come from the same place, but certainly when these multiple things come up, then it's a thread that I want to pursue to eliminate, if anything. So then when I started looking at things connected to the worship of Suri, I obviously saw that they used the saws or the sortes as a way of divination and prophecy, which was essentially making these tokens where you've got the symbols etched on wood. They would all be thrown into a bag. They would ask a question to the deity, and then they would throw the tokens down, and they would interpret them as a sort of oracle or prophecy. And the Norse actually did the same thing as well. So, I mean, the symbols look very similar anyway, and people have discussed, you know, where they come from, whether they come from the same origin. And then you find that they actually had the same practice of etching the runes onto what they call kefli, which are little wooden tokens, and they did the same thing. And when you look at the Cleisby and Vigfusson Norse dictionary, which is hailed as one of the most prominent resources for the Old Norse language, they actually connect the word runa to mysterion in the Greek. And even the Volva who does this practice, they actually question whether it's related to the word Sibula or Cybele, and they actually translate it as Cybele as well in some of the translations. So, and it just gets deeper and deeper, because when you look at the archaeology of these vulvas, these priestesses who were doing, you know, oracles and such, they were buried with henbane seeds, cannabis seeds, cauldrons, wands, and one of them, they were buried with a bead, and it had a dye on it that comes from Asia Minor. And they said before they found that, it was unknown in the Scandinavian records. And there's also some mention of certain migrations in the Prose Edda as well, which link it over to Asia Minor. So that's very interesting. So that's basically been my path, and I'm hoping the next episode will be finished shortly. I've got 10 minutes of finished footage. I'm about a third of the way through now.
That's incredible.
I have two questions for you. What is that on the side of your head? What do you have tattooed there?
It's a worm or a drag. It's basically just am I on the right side there? It's like a dragon.
You go.
It's like a Celtic sort of Norse dragon, and it goes all the way down my arm and across my back and stuff. So it's that's where it finishes on my hand. But it's not done yet. I've still got another few days left.
Can you see this?
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, it's a spruce tree.
Very nice. Very
nice.
a
little bit of Dionysus there.
Yes,
I've got a spider in my ear, and then a spider hiding behind there. Also, I want to ask you. Our friend Eric here is suffering from a little depression, and in the spirit of Saturnalia, do you have a joke for him to cheer him up?
Can we be a little bit cheeky with the jokes? Is that allowed?
100%. This is the time to be cheeky.
Let's go. What's long, hard, and full of semen.
What's what?
What's long, hard, and full of semen?
A Yule tree? I don't know.
A submarine.
I was going to say a boat.
Hey, you know the great thing about submarine is that it implies there's also such a thing as a dom marine.
You guys are terrible.
I wanted to ask you, before we get off track, did you notice between the Norse runes, the Etruscan runes, for lack of a better term, any similarity to the Colburn or the Welsh runes that you're familiar with?
Yep. So the some forms are shared. They are slightly different, but they do look very similar. Now I'm trying to trace the origin of these Colburn runes, because they were allegedly created by, or this is what they say, they were created by somebody called Iolo Morganug, who it looks like he was, he forged some scripts, possibly. So he mentions them, and what they say is they go, well, it could just be an invention of his. However, there is one text which mentions some of these symbols before he was actually active, before he was born, but I can't actually track down the original article. It's allegedly hanging out somewhere in a town hall or something, but tracking it down online is very difficult. So at the moment, I can't rule it out, and I can't 100% say if they're legit or not at this stage. But one of my goals is to be able to, really get to the bottom of this issue, because it's been ongoing for a while. We just need to definitively rule them out, or we need to get to the bottom of them.
Yeah, for sure. This is something I thought was so weird about a lot of the Celtic stuff, is that a lot of it has been sold into private collections, and the British government allows this largely. So a lot of this stuff has been, not even seen by academia. So it's kind of tracking it down, I imagine, is going to be quite difficult.
Some of them, have had when you look back in the 1800s, especially. It just seems like the Wild West with stuff like that, because one of the hoards that was found in Ireland, like, they just got melted down, and they estimate they were, well into 1000 BC. Some of these artifacts they found, Bronze Age artifacts, they went missing. They were sold on the black market. Some were melted down because they knew they couldn't sell them, so they melted them down into pure, bronze or gold bars and then sold them. And then there was one that was found on the Isles of Scilly, and it was a Bronze Age cup, but it was very unique. It had a spiral going all the way around it, like a golden spiral. And that went into the possession of the royal family. One of the members of the royal family took a shine to it, and they kept it for themselves. And then apparently it was getting passed back after some certain number of years to one of the museums, and it went missing and all, There's a bad history with this kind of thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, that royal family, it amazes me that more people don't talk about this. She died of choke jerking, the classic choke jerk that everybody dies of. Ironically, it's a Greek word, autoerotic asphyxiation. And Aristophanes actually wrote about this in that same book, the Diogenes with the tuna tooth and the fur ball. And they've been covering this up since day one. The queen actually died from choke jerking. You know what? Do you have that in your culture? It's when they put a door. It's the same thing that the guy from that band died from, and the other died. The guy that went around
from Kill Bill from Kill Bill. Right?
Yeah. All these, they put it on the doorknob while they're doing their thing. The queen, she died from choke jerking, and I think that it should be recognized. Everybody should say this, because we should shame these people as much as possible just for covering this up. And this isn't even the worst thing that they've covered up. she's dead, so she can't defend herself anymore. So, good riddance. But we should really bring light to the fact that the queen died from choke jerking, and they're covering this up and making it so that they're hiding it from us. It's a shame.
Is that the same queen that had the horse fell on her and she died?
No, the most recent one that died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't have choke jerking back then.
There was a queen, right? There was a queen that died from the horse collapsed on her. Like they tried to hoist the horse up above her.
Was that Catherine the Great?
That also may have been a choke jerking incident. She may have actually choked herself with the reins of the horse. Because they use these animals as machines, so there was this other esoteric form of entheogenic choke jerking where you would use the reins of the horse to actually choke yourself while you orgasm. So I've always suspected that particular death was also a cover-up. They're known for doing this. They're known for covering up choke jerks and choke jerk deaths, and we will not stand for it anymore. The Cerberisian school of cynicism will expose all of the choke jerking incidents throughout history, and they all share the same thing. It's all a cover up, and you have to follow your nose.
Yeah, just imagine how much cover up is underneath the Vatican in the vaults. Can we petition to get those out?
Oh, I was actually talking about this with Neil the other day because we were talking about the Crusades. And people often forget that the Catholics sacked Byzantium, and they talk about stealing, like they talk about taking a giant statue of Aphrodite, and it's still debated whether or not they boiled it down or not, but it was made out of solid gold apparently. So who knows what the heck the Catholics got? They raided the entire world, right?
My people's crown is not even it's in Vienna because they just went through all of it, and then because all the families are connected somehow. Even though somebody might steal something, and it's up in somebody else's castle, and it's just a shit show. I'm sorry, a mess. But it's even things things that are really important to other cultures. They're nowhere to be found. Nobody knows where things go, and it's really sad.
Oh boy. Last week, maybe the week before that, Snappy and I did a 2-hour episode about satire, and we were focusing on this book called Satire and The Power of Satire, Magic, Art, and Ritual. It was written in the 1950s. It's actually a very, very brilliant book, and a huge section of that book talks about Celtic satire, satire from the region that I understand you're from and you focused on. I don't know anything about that, so a lot of the cultural references that they were making were completely going over my head. But one of the things that we find when we're sniffing around these pages is that there's all these satirists that are protecting the mystery from the people that are may have the wrong intent or whatever. But satire culturally came out of this way of protecting the ritual from outsiders and making fun of them to such an extent that some of them would even die from the words that you're saying. It kind of the dragon tongue that we allude to when we're sniffing around this stuff. And I was wondering if you have any knowledge of satire and the role of satirists in the tradition that you research.
You know what? I'm very sorry to say that I haven't, to be honest. I know it's not a very good answer, but most of the text we've got are so fragmentary anyway. Some of them are compiled, hundreds of years after it happened. So we're really thin on the ground. And I think a lot of the issue is that the site that, pre-Roman times, nothing was written down, largely. With the exception of the odd, stone. So there wasn't a lot of records kept. And then when the Romans left with the subsequent power vacuum, there was, Britons factioning amongst themselves and, fighting amongst themselves. Then the Saxons came in, and the Saxons very much seemed to be pushing the Roman Catholic Apostolic Church. And, they were battling the Britons, who seemed to be following a different form of Christianity, and they were trying to, get them to conform by hook or crook, I suppose the term is. So unfortunately, I haven't got a very good answer for you on that front, I'm afraid, just because of the lack of sources, unfortunately.
Well, so here's the thing: is that's actually the answer that I was expecting, and the answer that you get from most people that study this sort of thing is that they don't look at the impact that comedy, the impact that insults, the impact that jokes and inside jokes, this lyrical poetry that is comes across as vile and offensive to the people that are in power. The role that this stuff actually serves in protecting these rituals from being completely annihilated from the get, right? Because you can get the wrong person in there and then the gig's up. But the way of protecting it from people that have bad intent is to put all of these traps and these snares and these jokes and these riddles and all of these things that you kind of have to be a dedicated person to actually unravel, right? And I would love to talk to you sometime in the future in the new year. I don't want to assign you any homework or anything, but maybe just on the chapters of this particular book that Snappy and I were looking at, because we were going to try to find somebody who's maybe a comedian and fluent in the Arabic tradition and kind of talk to them about, the what this work has to say about, that tradition. So this particular book focuses on Greek, Arabic, and Celtic satire, and how it served this particular role throughout time. And I only focused on what they were talking about with the Greek stuff because I recognize the names and the jokes and all that stuff. But you're far, far, far more fluent in the other stuff that they were talking about in this book, and I would love to see what you have, see what it brings out. Maybe it connects some of the dots that you have questions about, because a lot of people, they don't sniff around to find the jokes. They just kind of look over the jokes and don't go they go, oh, there's a joke, okay, cool, and then look past it, right? Because there's a lot of wisdom within the jokes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm up for reading it. I'm always up for a new avenue to pursue. So yeah, I'd love to take a look. I would love to have a chat to you about it in the future. And I can certainly see how, because I kind of view the sort of later Norman era influence, the Arthurian romance, that to me, when you're reading stuff like that, they're conveying this hidden meaning inside of a story. That's, to me, is a similar kind of idea, but obviously they're not going down the satire route with it. So I can see exactly why they would be doing that kind of thing. And, I find stuff like that interesting. So yeah, for sure, I'm up for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's modern satires that exist right now that people don't recognize are satire. The movie Fight Club, everybody who's seen the movie Fight Club and didn't recognize that it was a satire, kind of has egg on their face. The joke's on you. Like, they're kind of making fun of you to your face without you recognizing it.
Yeah, that's a classic one, because so many of these dude bros have taken it up as like a literal thing, to the point, like here in Canada, we have a fascist organization that they call themselves action clubs, and they're basically fight clubs, but more about gym working out, and then like doing MMA and being, white supremacists. And I'm like, you guys are all, engaged in homosexual rights.
And they're not finishing the ritual.
No, it's pretty ridiculous, but yeah, too funny. And yeah, this is something that happens often, is that we miss out on the joke, or we don't recognize the joke. And something that we're talking about is, in general, is just that a lot of the mystery and a lot of this enlightenment language that they're getting at within these various philosophies in spiritualities, religions, what have you, it needs to be experiential. It cannot be overly discussed. And there is this desire for many people to try to intellectualize it and to claim it. And so the role of the satirist is sort of to mock these people. And you even see this in the Eastern traditions a lot. Like the Buddha famously creates all of these, and then many of the Buddhas that come after Gautama, they talk about the invention of the koan, which are these stories or these parables that have no possible answer. And they're supposed to just confuse you and to break down your thinking. Like a famous one is, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Which I think is kind of funny as a body percussionist, because I can give you many sounds for one hand clapping. But, you hear a lot of this stuff, and it's kind of, it's about challenging your conceptions. The mystery is something that needs to be experienced through the ritual and through the rites, whether it's entheogenic rites or meditation or yogic rites. It's not something that can be perceived intellectually or debated or even discussed. Do you see any of that within the Celtic tradition, like this, the obscuring of these kind of mystery rites, or the talking about them in this kind of language where it has to be experiential?
I would say when I'm reading texts which I feel have got this underlying theme, it depends on the time they were written as well, because I think sometimes they're trying to be, in the later Victorian era, you can tell that they're definitely trying to be more sort of prudent with the words, and they're trying to hide it in that Victorian sort of flavorful language. But when you go further back, I think there was less of that. But you have a sense of, my issue is getting access to these old texts again, because quite often we're just working off one main translation, and you don't know how much influence has been put into these translations. So my ultimate goal really is to learn to be able to read them and to go and check them at some point, because quite often we're working off, a translation that's been running for over 100 years, and it's the only one that there's been. So it's hard to give a definitive answer, because I can tell when I'm reading it, it sounds clunky. It sounds like there's been a lot of interpretation in the text as well.
Right. Yeah. One thing I want to ask you about, I was looking into a lot of this galley type stuff, especially after the last episode of Lady Babylon. And I kept finding references to the Arthurian legends. And I know that Galahad is a later character, but some scholars are now considering him as a potential galley. And he's one of the few knights who actually gets the cup. And I think this would make sense, a name like Galahad, and being this absolute pure person in who's imitating the divine feminine in order to get the cup. Have you come across anything like that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's something I have looked at a little bit. He's definitely there, and there are other scholars out there who write about this wounded knight sort of trope, and how it's symbolic of the, this kind of mystery practice. And he's kind of like, he's a right hand man, isn't he, as well? So he's in the right position. He's got this wound, and I think it's certainly there. I think it's quite on the nose, actually, to be honest. When you put it right there in the Arthurian legend, and
right.
Other people have written about it. So we're not alone on thinking that.
No, for sure. And I just keep thinking Galahad, Galilee, Galloy, like it's almost like shockingly on the nose. But yeah,
and,
go ahead.
There are historical there's evidence, archaeological evidence, that there were potentially, that they think that they found one of these Gaulies in Catterick, in the Roman settlement at Catterick, because it was a male body. However, he was buried with like mirrors and stuff, like typically what they would ascribe to female burials, and possessions that would be unique to females within that structure, that social structure. So they speculate, and they've said, yeah, we believe that this is evidence, because they know that there was a cult of Attis to some extent going on in Britain. So yeah, there's certainly records of it.
Wow.
Hey, speaking of cup, what does Billy Witch Doctor got in his cup over there? I see it's full. What do we got?
Yep, wizard wine is done. So it's pulled the spices out. We simmered that for about 20 minutes, and got about 3 ounces of this Berenjeger honey liqueur, and it is an assault on the senses. And the back of my tongue's a little numb from the intense spice, but it is very nice otherwise.
What were the spices again? Can you reiterate them, since Old Boy joined after you mentioned them?
So we have crushed whole nutmeg, crushed cinnamon sticks, whole cloves, whole allspice, rye berries also crushed, mint, and ginger.
Lovely, lovely stuff. And so many of those would have been are entheogenic, right? Like I know for sure the cinnamon and the nutmeg, and of course the alcohol. What are your thoughts on like? Do you see any of these kind of like mystery wines in the Celtic tradition, old boy?
So no, well, I mean, you've got the cauldron in the the magic cauldron in the Branwen in the Mabinogi. Sorry, Mabinogi.
You're raising the dead, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's what they do, but it makes them mute, doesn't it? It makes them mute when they come out because I mean, you can't talk about your initiation, right? I suppose maybe. And however, on the actual language front, the language shows that there's some really old words in the Welsh which seem to be not too dissimilar actually from the Greek. So you've got the medhu in the Greek. You see that word, the meth root, which is to do with intoxication, and it's medhu actually in the Welsh as well, and that means intoxicated. And it also is related to healing as well, because the same root methig is also a doctor or a healer. So in the language itself, you can see that there's this meth root turns up in all the intoxication and healing. And in the story of Maeve, the Feast of Brecrew, when she meets Cuchulainn, and as well, what's interesting, because this ku must be a really old word, because obviously in the Greek, kuon is a dog, and it's ku in the Irish for a dog, as you can see in Cuchulainn. So, it must be a really old word that they had before they've diverged. And, oh, yeah, there you go.
Mandy's obsessed with dogs. He believes that dogs are essential to all of the mystery rites, and through Diogenes and Cerberus. So, yeah,
I'm the founder of what we call the Cerberesian school of Cynicism, and Billy Witch Doctor is one of the other founders. It's a triad, and he is the keeper of potions. So he was able to join us today.
Yeah, I'd love to try some of your concoction there for sure. It looks really nice. I'm all about this. These old sort of herbal remedies, because they have that in the Welsh as well, metheglin, and that's an old traditional drink that apparently had all these spices in. It's got the meth root in it as well. And as you were saying about dogs, because Cuchulainn, his name means the Hound of Cullen, who is the smith, and obviously he's involved in what seems to be mystery kind of practices in the mythology. And Maeve gives him a drink out of a special goblet for winning his trials. They get set trials, and it says that on the bottom of the cup is what's called a dragon stone. So there's something going on there when she's giving him the cup with a dragon stone. So
wow, that makes me think of, we see a lot of the Kaikion cups that have the dragon images drawn on the bottom of them. Wild stuff. Love it.
Yeah, like when you finish it, it's a mask.
Yeah.
So, what sort of headspace were you in when you were seeing somebody else finish their portion of the potion, and you see a, like, are you supposed to like give them the thing first and then like start feeling the effects? So by the time the other person kicks in, you see them finish it and you get that mask. Like, there's so many like ways to try to like figure out like what was the actual ritual that was taking place here and the significance of these, individual little pieces of it.
Have any of you guys seen that movie, The Northman? It's a really good one. It's a sort of a retelling of Hamlet, but of the earliest version of Hamlet that comes from the Norse. And it's really steeped in a lot of the mystery. And they really went out of their way to make it as accurate as possible. So you get a lot of just really, really cool stuff there. Hey, Sarah, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. We're just talking about North mysteries and dog stuff. And I just wanted to finish this point where what we see in the Northman, and this has been attested to by some scholars, is this lycanthropy ritual, where the guys ingest these, they drink the potion like a dog from a dog dish, and then they're supposed to act out becoming a dog. And then this is one of these sacred rites, and they do this under the moon and howl at the moon. Have you come across anything like that, old boy, in your research?
It's not something I've come across taking part in that kind of specific ritual, but I do believe there's something going on with the dogs for certain, because, as I said, Cuculin, he's, you know, the hound himself, and as we've seen, I'm on showing the Greek side, you know, quite often these hounds, the, you know, priests or people involved in the mysteries, and obviously certainly in the Etruscan side you see that as well with the Herpi who were doing rituals to Suri, and they apparently imitated wolves, it said as well, and they would wear the wolf garments. And then on the north side as well, you've obviously got the wolf skins. I think they're called like ulfserkers or something, and they're involved in ritual certainly, and they were employed as bodyguards as well. So they were seemingly had a purpose, because they didn't feel heat or the metal, the blades, apparently, probably due to the substances that they were consuming as well.
Right. So thank you for joining us, Selah. How's it going? Glad to have you here.
My mic's messed up, sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It's I'm glad that you could join us. So thank you for coming. And for everyone else, if you guys want to join, come and join the chat. We're just, you know, being silly, making merry. So I wanted to say, yo, Saturnalia to you. And yeah, thank you. You brought the wine. Amazing. You brought the wine. You know, we're going to give it a little bit longer here. So probably in about 20 minutes, we'll crown a princeps. Dion, we see that you are going wild with the pesto. How's the pesto coming?
Oh, it's coming along great. What I did was I took some sea salt, fresh garlic, pine nuts, and the mortar and pestle. I got a big one right here, you can see. And I put some fresh extra virgin olive oil, and fresh basil from the garden, and some cheese, Parmesan Reggiano. This is a Ligurian basic, Genovese pesto from Italy. It's a paste. That's what pesto means. It's a pound. So I got my mortar and pestle. But you know, in other episodes, we talk about these silly mortar and pestles. Just say, you know, they go under a different name.
Yeah, you're doing the pounding, right, with your mortar and pestle. There's the double entendre there for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's coming along just fine. I'm going to add it to some fresh crostinis I made in the oven, which is fresh bread with some olive oil toasted. I'm going to pair it with some wine. We got some different wines here. But yeah, this is basics for witchcraft or cooking. The first tool is you got to get your mortar and pestle. This is where the game starts, right here. I'm going to put spells on y'all.
100%, right? Gonna put spells on everyone. Cast some magic. One thing I was just thinking of, I wanted to ask you, old boy. In the Mabinogion, I was reading this stuff. A lot of it's been lost, but there's some scholarly speculation about after Bran dies and he's resurrected, that at the very end, Branwen cuts his head off and takes his head. And in some of the later versions, so they're not sure if this is accurate, but she buries it in a mound that then becomes the city of London. Have you read anything about that?
Yeah, it's I think it's Windsor Castle, which is, you know, when they're so Buckingham Palace is the place they've got right in the sort of centre of London, and Buckingham Castle's just slightly out of the, you know, it's a bit of a drive off. It's not too far, But if you Google Mott and Bailey Castle, Windsor Castle, you'll see there's a circular mound, like a conical shape with a flat top, and then on the top of it, that's where you've got your Norman Bailey Castle. And some people have written that they believe it was buried under that mound. However, what they'll say is these Mott and Bailey castles cropped up in the Norman period. However, you'll notice that a lot of them, they all look very similar, and they look similar to some of the older sites that they know were originally, Brythonic sites. And one of the prime examples of this is in York, the city of York. There's Clifford's Tower, which is a Mott and Bailey mound. And they say it was built in the 12th century. But in the Roman times, it was used as a graveyard. That whole area was a graveyard for Roman burials. And in the late 1800s, they had to go and underpin the foundations of this Norman Mott and Bailey castle. And when they were doing that, they actually found a cist burial from the Bronze Age in there. So it just shows that even though the consensus was, it was, a Roman burial that was built on top of in the Norman period, once they actually went into it, they found this Bronze Age cist burial. So a lot of them have been reused over the ages, so it seems.
That's beautiful. And I know in the Roman period, they talk about how they give London a special title, the Romans, because they say it's like older than dirt. It's like from time immemorial, right? And it's the oldest city in all of Britain. So it would make sense that it would have this Bronze Age connection, you'd think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the tribe that were actually there were called Trinovantes. And it's from some people, because the legend obviously says that the Britons came from Troy. And some of them look at the etymology and say it's like Troia Novantum or something, which means New Troy in Latin. So, but I need to double check on that really to see where this etymology is coming from. Because unfortunately, there are some people who've written about some of the etymology of some places, and it doesn't really add up. You've got to be careful with some of the older authors and some of the antiquarians.
Right. Yeah, one of the things that I find fascinating looking through etymology and stuff is the different names that they gave to people groups and the different names that you can have when you combine people groups. So you kind of have to do what's available in your language at that time to be able to do that. And, right now, the world's been playing a cosmic joke on me my entire life because, there isn't actually a word for the grouping that I am, because my mother's side's from Welsh, or there's Welsh, and my dad's side's Hungarian. So the only thing that's available in the language is that I'm well hung, which is actually it's an accurate description of reality, but it's not true. I don't know, that's. We can create that mythology in that stereotype if you want, but it's not true for everybody in that group, and it's unfortunate.
So I think it's time that we crown a princeps. It doesn't seem like, I think we've got a good crew here, people. So we got our dice 1 through 6. So the only people not eligible are Dion and I. Hopefully Mandy doesn't also get crowned. So we're going to change it up. I originally given people numbers, but since we have a different crew here and people came and went, and so to speak, so we're going to say that Occult Examiner, you're number 1. Mandy, you're number 2. Billy Witch Doctor, you're number 3. Eric, you're 4. Old Boy, you're going to be 5, and Sela, you're number 6. All right, so let's see who gets crowned as the Lord of Saturnalia, or Lady, or Lady. All right, number 2. You're also the King of Saturnalia. Cheers! All hail to the king. Dion and I are your humble slaves. So
Hail Eris, the dice are rigged.
Do you have? What do you say as king? What do you mandate?
Well, if I were to mandate, there would be Mandy dates. And beyond that, I didn't prepare anything. I was not expecting this. I've never won anything in my life, so I'm unironically speechless, which is, it's a rare thing for me to be.
The fates decided, and this is your fate. You're the uniting of the Apollonian and the Dionysian today. Both poles in one figure. So, hail Fawnies. Those little hands are freaking weird, man.
Well, it's I was playing on the idea in the Satiricon when the small guy with the big hands at the festival, but I'm a big guy with small hands, so it's an inversion. And jokes are not as funny when you explain them, but I'm being ironic by explaining my jokes, so they're ironically funny. It's the Penn and Teller act again.
Love it,
I'm getting a request from somebody here if somebody could read a poem.
A poem. There once was a man from Nantucket. Shit, I can't find the rest. Never mind.
Give me
if
a
you have
couple
ears to
minutes.
hear.
I have many poems saved, so give me a second.
That was poem jazz. The fun part was in the lyrics I didn't say.
On that note, I gotta leave you guys.
Hey, bye, buddy. It's good to see you.
Yo, Saturnalia, everybody. Very nice to meet you.
Yo, Saturnalia. Nice meeting you. Thank you for coming. This was fun.
Definitely.
Take care.
Until next time.
Oh, I have a surprise for everybody. Does everybody know why they call magic markers magic markers? Does anybody know? It's because on the assembly line, every 666th marker actually possesses a jumping cap. And the joke is that you have to smell every single one to figure out which one is which, right? And because I'm part of the Cerberus school of cynicism, I'm able to follow my nose and to split it into threes and find things quicker. So I only had to smell 333 markers to find one today, which is great. So I wanted to, show you all how to do this. Once you sniff 666 markers, you can do this too, but you have to do it by smell. And if you take a look, like the cap, it jumps every time you. Did you see it? Can you see that? It jumps. The caps jump, right? And you open it, see it jumps to the other side, right? And you gotta catch it, and it jumps to the other side every time, right? It's just. I don't know. You have to follow your nose to find it, but all magic markers share this, and it's whoever has this is working in the magic marker factory really like puts some actual wisdom into the machinery there, because it's every 666 marker, and you have to smell it. So that's part of the joke. While you see kids smelling markers, they're really putting in some wisdom into that. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of revealed some secrets there, but they're a capitalist organization, so screw them. But joke's on you, unless you're part of the Cerberus school of cynicism, you have to smell 666 of them to be able to do that. Yeah,
great trick.
That one's in honor of Dionysus.
I really like your background too. What are you eating there?
So during the stream, we traveled over the hill and through the woods to my sister's house, who cooked us chicken and mushrooms with some candied carrots, and we brought black rice. And I'm fixing to slurp on some margarita. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. So as per request, I have a poem here. This is called Under Saturn by William Butler Yeats. William Butler Yeats. It says, "Do not, because this day I have grown Saturnine, imagine that lost love, inseparable from my thought, because I have no other youth, can make me pine. For how should I forget the wisdom that you brought, the comfort that you made? Although my wits have gone on a fantastic ride, my horse's flanks are spurred by childish memories of an old cross, Polyphexen, and of Middleton, whose name you never heard, and of a red-haired Yeats, whose looks, although he died before my time, seem like a vivid memory. You heard that laboring man who had served my people. He said, upon the road, near to Silgue Quay, no, not said, but cried it out, you have come again. And surely after 20 years it was time to come. I am thinking of a child's vow, sworn in vain, never to leave that valley his fathers called their home."
You said come.
Probably a little too esoteric for a quick, easy understanding, but gotta love William Yeats. So
you said
yeah.
Yeats, come.
Yeats.
That's awesome.
Oh God.
Hell yeah.
Too ridiculous, you guys. So fun.
Sorry, my brain spaced out. Occult Examiner, do you have a joke for us? Because Eric's been battling depression, and the best medicine is laughter, and we want to, do you have a joke that you can share us to help his spirits into the new year?
I'm not good with jokes. I am super good with dry humor and laughing at myself, but not. No, if I was around Eric, though, I would hold him down, tickle him silly.
I'm very ticklish.
Would that work?
Yeah.
You have to experience the mystery anyway to truly understand it. So,
love it.
you disappear into the lemon trees or into the starflower.
Probably a little bit of both.
Be hiding in one of the bottles.
Have you guys heard of the lemon stealing whore?
No, what do you mean lemon stealing whore?
Well, it's a meme. There's a porno, and it's called the lemon stealing whore. It's so bad. It's the worst. Like, you know how cheesy sometimes porn introductions get. It's like that, and it's just the whole basis is of this girl that just goes around stealing lemons from this dude, and it's just called a lemon stealing whore. You can just look it up.
I got a joke for you, Eric. Okay, it says, my friend has a butler whose left arm is missing. Serves him right. There you go. That's as good as I get.
I love cheesy jokes. Like, they're the best.
Oh, did you hear about the cheese factory that just burnt down in France?
No.
The only thing that was left was debris.
Oh God, that's a good one.
Dion, you're in California, right?
Yes.
Did you hear about that parsley farmer out in Los Angeles that just he got in trouble with the IRS?
Parsley farmer, huh?
Yeah, they garnish his wages.
You're the worst.
That's his job. Hey, you're doing a good job of being the worst.
That's a good satire show. It's actually called "You're the Worst." I love it.
Oh yeah.
That's a really
I make big sausages. I used to have this pretend food blog with my buddy who's actually he turned out to be like a pretty famous chef eventually, but we worked at a restaurant just as like fry cooks together, and we started a fake food blog where we had this like backstory about how like we were some lady who used to cook for her husband and all this stuff, and now she has to adjust all of her recipes so she can cook for one, and she needs help like figuring it all out, yada, 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 yada. So the recipes were absolutely terrible if you actually made them. And she was like really, really proud of it and all this. But my friend and I would put in the comment section like really, really good suggestions. So if you only looked at the comments, like you would be able to piece together it. But if you just disregard the comments and the back and forth and the dialectics that's going on in the comment section, you're going to completely miss that. Like at the end of the threads, we gave the entire like really, really good recipes. So we were like coding all of this stuff in like this performative silliness. But it's the same thing, throughout time. So if somebody, figures out how to archive the internet and figure out, this stupid blog, they'll be very confused about, the recipes because the comment section doesn't exist where we, give away the secrets. And I've been doing this in like actual restaurants too, where, if I feel like I'm being stiffed or they're not paying me enough or anything like that, I'm not going to leave them with the good recipes. I'm going to leave them with, a recipe that's far inferior, so they're not actually, they don't know the actual techniques or the actual ingredients that went into it that made it special. They're just going to see herbs, stuff like that on the recipe.
You're
What is
muted,
that on
Snappy.
the screen? Oh, okay, dung.
Oh, I'll say it again. From Monty Python. What's brown and sounds like a bell? Dung. Terrible.
Nancy
But
Divine.
thank you, Nancy, for lightening the mood. We appreciate you. Dion, your request for a poem. I thought we should read a poem from our good friend Graham. So, Dry, Empty Mountain. Old wounds torn open by fresh wounds. With patience and dedication, I carry out this procedure through day and night. Soon my whole body will be covered in armor of scars, scrawls upon a weary tome. There you go. Little dark, but that's Graham for us. Okay.
Is Graham going to be joining us in the new year for a special episode?
He will be. This is going to be fun. We haven't talked about this properly yet, but we're going to be doing a special episode with Graham on the esotericism of Shakespeare and the Shakespeare mysteries. So you've been digging into this, Dion. What have you found about Shakespeare? We're
going to get into St. Albans, Canterbury, Stratford. I'm having to learn all these terms, old boy. I'm looking up all these little places. Arden, Cambridge, Oxford, London, Mary Queen of Scots versus Queen Elizabeth versus King James, who was in the Royalist Society, a lot of infighting. And was Shakespeare Edward Kelly, Christopher Marlowe, Francis Bacon, Edward de Vere, John Dee, or maybe somebody else?
Did you say bacon?
Bacon?
Okay. You got to talk to me about this kind of stuff with John Dee. I've never heard the John Dee and Edward Kelly connection. I've heard about Marlowe and Bacon, but this is a bit wild to me because Edward Kelly, for those who don't know, was a charlatan, a famous rogue, but also a diviner. They were the partner of John Dee, who was the head of, who was a personal, advisor to Queen Victoria and was a part of the Secret Service and famously had the largest library in all of Europe during his lifetime. One of the most educated men in Europe. And they together drew the Enochian magical runes, and they did a bunch of scrying magic, which has now become a central theme in a lot of European magic and occultism. So what is the connection here with Edward Kelly and John Dee? I haven't heard them referenced with Shakespeare. That's wild.
A lot of people will posit that Shakespeare was just a frontman. He was a good actor, but he certainly... Some people will say, and there's lots of arguments over this stuff. Old boy can tell you. Now that I was looking into it, it gets deep because people's tenures and jobs and books are based on this. So they got a foot in the race, let's say, of who Shakespeare is. And some people will say that Shakespeare was an actor who was representing a group of people who were putting forth some new ideas at the time, and as well as politics that were pissing off the kings and queens. So to hide this political and spiritual commentary, they did it through theater and through patronage. A lot of it deals with alchemy, the Rosicrucians, Freemasonry, the Royalist Society, kings and queens. The story's deep. I mean, I would love to just really pick old boy's brain about this, because this is his neck of the woods where he grew up.
Shakespeare, more like fake spear.
I've definitely definitely heard that one, yes, for sure. I've heard the most prolific account that I've seen is the Francis Bacon one. But outside of that, I've not dived into to Shakespeare that much, I'll be honest. But I have seen a lot of people say that it could be Francis Bacon. Obviously, stuff just doesn't add up. The amount of money that he would have had, he wouldn't have been able to afford to have these books that would have cost, like half a year's wage or something for a copy of these books. You know what I mean? It just doesn't add up of how he was going to be able to afford these things, and the way some of the books are addressed as well. I think there was another one where they thought he could have been, there was another baron as well who was linked to the royals, who he could have potentially also been, just by how he was writing.
I mean, look at the production of the first folio. Have you ever seen an original of this book? It is the amount of money that would go into the binding and everything. This is unheard of for this era. So regardless of who Shakespeare was, he had massive benefactors who remained secret at the time, because the people who did publish his book didn't have the money or the wherewithal to produce something like this. And it's just kind of wild that it even got created and it survived,
This is true. And what's strange is his wife couldn't read or write, his kids couldn't read or write, yet he spoke multiple languages. This poor dude, this poor actor. A lot of things, it doesn't add up. And there's ciphers as well inside Shakespeare literature, as well as the positions where the actors stand on stage are representing the layouts of astrotheology. And, one actor could be the moon, another actor could be the sun. They're speaking in pentaverse, which is based on 5, the number 5. There's a lot of codes in there. So, we're give us to the next year. We got 3 or 4 weeks out. We're going to go deep.
So we have a question here from our good friend Chewy for Sela Shelob. Do you want to tell us about your tattoos? Do you mind? I'm interested too. They're beautiful.
Okay, so I assumed I don't know which one you're talking about, but I have Hokmah and Binah on my chest for wisdom and understanding.
That's awesome. So Hebrew letters and Chokmah and Binah are also parts on the tree of life in Kabbalah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Sephiroth. Very cool. And yeah, what's your arm tattoo? Oh, is that MF?
It might be. I got a lot of. I mean, I'm very young still, but I got a lot of my tattoos before I was 18.
Right. I totally get it. I have a bad tattoo from when I was young of John Lennon. So
yeah, and I have a candlestick because we love that candle magic.
Gotta love it, and it's perfect for Saturnalia when we all should be lighting candles anyway, or building wax figurines. Really cool. Anyway, thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. But going back to Shakespeare, I know there's some crazy stuff in Shakespeare too, and so much references to mythology and to mysticism. Like the three plays that always stood out to me were Titus Andronicus, where you have the boiling of someone's family alive and being fed to them. This screams Median mystery, right? This is such a parallel to what we see in the Bacchae and what is claimed on Medea. I know a lot of people believe that Medea wasn't actually boiling anyone alive, that this is a reference to fumigation. So there could be some kind of real deep esotericism going on. And I'm going to be rereading Titus Andronicus in preparation for this episode that we're doing. The other one that comes out is, of course, Midsummer's Night's Dream, where there's so much of the magic in the fairy realm. You have the character of Puck, who a lot of people have talked about as reference to a satyr or to Pan himself, and the fairy king and queen. And then, of course, you have the witches, the fates in Macbeth, and the casting of curses all throughout Macbeth, which has even played into the literal kind of reality of these plays, where there's curses involving Macbeth, where you're not supposed to perform this play, and people who have suffered. Did you come across any of that yet in your research, Dion? Oh, it looks like Dion froze out on us. No, he went sideways and froze out on us. But yeah, needless to say, I've talked to Ammon before about Shakespeare, and he kind of just shook his head and said he stole everything, which he kind of did. You know, it's all references to classic mythology and to classic history. So, you know, fun stuff. But yeah. So going back to Mandy, you're the king of Saturnalia. You're our princeps. So what do you think? What should we be doing? Should we be playing games? Should we be? I notice you're wearing the mask and you're combing your mustache there. Oh God, that's creepy. Wow.
You remember the awkward turtle? Remember the awkward turtle?
It reminds me of that SNL sketch with the lady with the tiny hand. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're talking about what was that movie?
The one with Chris Wick. And she's got like curly hair, and then she's like, the hand. And or that a scary movie, the guy with the hand, and he just starts going on downtown with the turkey.
What I think we need right now at this point in the party, we just reached about the 2-hour mark, and we have not had a dance break yet.
We have not had a dance break.
I'm surprised we've made it this far into the festival and we have not had a dance break. So we have a mandatory dance break right now. And it's mandatory in the camp.
Do we need to play some drums?
We have drums, but we have to have a dance party. And if you're not dancing,
oh boy, you got a guitar. Nice. Oh, Eric has the drum of Shiva there.
Yep.
were you going to play us a folk tune?
Yeah, let's hear it. You got a song you could sing for us?
You got a tune for us? I would love to hear one.
Well, I'm not much of a singer these days.
All right.
No.
Just play one. It's up to you. No pressure.
No pressure, but all the pressure.
Love it. We got a dance party. Princeps has spoken, right?
You know, an interesting thing that I found out about the suckling pigs that they would serve at these festivals is that they would give them a pastry priapus.
Oh,
yeah. So when they served them, they had a pastry priapus when they were served.
Really?
Right about there. And it would be made out of pastries. So you just can't, no matter where you look, you can't get away from the symbology of the the roots of the festival. It's hidden in every single thing, and they don't talk about the pastry priapus very often when you're researching the food at these. But when you know where to look and you know how to smell, you can find the pastry priapus.
Oh God! Here, eat this dick cake. Happy Saturnalia. It's filled with cream, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Oh gosh. I got my drum here. I can play a little bit. I'm not really warmed up, but
I used to do penis-shaped cakes for Beltane.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Sometimes a vagina, but you know. And be careful dancing. I know this is Saturnalia, but let's go to Mabon. Be careful when you dance around that maypole, okay? Because it works. It really works. I found out I was pregnant like 2 or 3 weeks into July, and it was crazy. So it like happened like right during Beltane. So yeah.
That's wild. That's wild.
You want to hear something else wild? A little bit of Southern history is my grandmother, born in the 30s in Knoxville, Tennessee, went to a school, and I was looking up the history of her school because it's still standing, and there's pictures of her in her yearbook dancing around a maypole. So that maypole tradition has been carried down through the years, even into, you know, southern United States as just a springtime festival, and they have no idea what they're doing.
We also have maypole dances in the natives in Mexico. They have maypole dances, which I thought it was super weird because you always hear about being European, but yeah, people down here were also doing that. It's pretty odd, and they do it around the same time, around spring, the spring and summer, like the spring solstice, and then on the summer equinox.
That's beautiful. When Dion and I were looking into a lot of the this pole imagery, the raising of the poles, what we saw at Eleusis is that they had a threshing floor and a pole that had multiple functions. So they would thresh the grain there, and they would collect the grain for use in the kykeon, and they would also correct the claviceps purpurea, which was the fungus that would grow in the grain, for use for entheogenic purposes. But they would also use it as a sundial, and they would also dance around it. And these threshing floors were really important in early Greek cities, because this would be a communal space that everyone was allowed to use, and would be set upon a hill just outside of the town normally. And this is like a place you enter into for the magic rites. And the fertility rituals were usually conducted like the hymns to Demeter and whatnot. They would stand upon these mounds in front of these poles. And this is where a lot of this stuff comes from. You still would see like these priestesses who would dance around, or these young virgin girls would dance around these poles into states of ecstasy where they would fall over and whatnot. So this has been going on for forever. Beautiful stuff.
And one of the things that's kind of lost to time is the fact that very, very early on in these rituals, they were selecting for ergot instead of selecting against it, right? So when it's a fungus that grows on grain, right? And Demeter being the goddess of grain, she's kind of side by side with this. So you can get bread, but you can also get the drugs, right? And being agricultural people, you have to make a decision. Are you selecting for the purple to be the thing that comes out, or are you selecting against that purple so that you can get bigger seed for your grain, right? And because these are ancient mystery rites and ancient medicinal rites that are all based in gynecology, one of the things that was lost to time is the fact that they were growing specific varieties of wheat and grain and rye and barley and all of these things that are related to it that were susceptible to the particular type of ergot that they were looking for, right? But for the past 2,000 years, we've been selecting against that, right? And one of the things that happens when you're selecting against that particular type of against ergot, what you're left with is the really dangerous type of ergot, the type that grows on your bread wheat, as opposed to your drug wheat, right? They're different. They have different purposes, right? And anybody who knows gardening and knows, you know, breeding or anything like that knows that you can. It's kind of like an indica versus a sativa, right? You can have different things. One will make you paranoid. One will put you in the couch, right? And you know how to breed and to select for these things. Essentially what happened through thousands and thousands and thousands of years of selection against the type of ergot that gives you the really potent psychedelic effects, you ended up with really big wheat that is good for bread and stuff, with very, very small quantities of the actual fungus that you're looking for. So, you know, when the Salem witch trials or whatever happened, that was because that was a fungal outbreak on their bread, right? The stuff that they were growing for bread. It wasn't the small plot of purple. It was an amber wave of grain that they were growing for, right? So ancient people that started these mystery rites, they didn't have amber waves of grain. They had small plots of purple.
Actually, it's funny. It's interesting you bring that up because some of the earliest Germanic texts that we have are about the establishment of the grain laws and creating these purity rites around the production and creation of beer. You know, it couldn't have any of the purpurea in it. And this is like foundational to even the creation of the Germanic state. It's one of the first things that they instituted as law across the land and was enforced via religious law as well. So it's a really profound thing.
They used to also have henbane beers in Germany as well. And up until relatively late as well, I believe they still had them around about the 1500s. And as you say, it's when the church came out and brought out these laws that said that they had to take the henbane out and replace it with hops.
The reason that I have the spruce tip tattoo is because on my farm, it's surrounded by spruce trees, and we harvest the spruce tips and sell them to breweries in the spring. So one year, the first year that we did it, we took all of the profit that we made and got tattoos of spruce. So I got it on my head. So I have a lot of experience growing hop alternatives for breweries, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. That's how you got your start out where you are was brewing, and that's where you met your wife, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. So when I was in culinary school, I worked on an agricultural research farm that was growing out various varieties of wheat, and they were field test trialing them, and they got selected because of their elevation and the susceptibility of particular moisture or whatever, right? So it was this project that was all throughout New England. And one of the things that I had to do on a regular basis was to walk up and down the grain patch and look out for the ergot. And if I saw any ergot, I had to take this little net bag, put it over it, seal it, and put the date and the name and the time and everything. And you know, the farmer that was responsible for that would then go and call the agricultural research or the scientist and they'll come and do the science part of it. So I have firsthand experience looking at the way that different varieties of wheat are susceptible to ergot. And you know, it's very clear when you're looking for the ergot, how if that was your focus, you could breed for the ergot. So you could, instead of doing what I was doing and actually physically participated in was selecting against, you can select for this thing. And it's the same that you have when you're breeding different varieties of like cannabis. You can make it concentrated and more concentrated for what you're looking for. You know what I mean? It's just a breeding process and cloning and hybriding and all of that stuff that takes, you know, a lot of knowledge to do. And these people were agriculturalists. They had that knowledge, right?
The cannabis is super interesting because my brother, he worked in the cannabis industry for years and trying to develop ways to isolate certain tryptamines and different compounds. Specifically, they were trying to isolate the CBG and the CBDs. Now, various other forms of these cannabinoids that are not grown for. And one of the things that they found when they were studying a lot of the ancient cannabis is they recognized that the ancient cannabis, while it didn't have tons of THC that we now grow for, it had tons, insane amounts of CBG and CBD and these other types of cannabinoids that were more healing properties. So when I imagine these Scythians burning these tons and tons and tons of cannabis in order to get stoned, they're having a very different high. They're having a CBD, CBG style high, which is far more healthy for the human body, actually. And like CBG is an anti-inflammatory. It will cause you to be far more youthful. And if you imagine that they're creating cannabis-derived oils, they could be amping up these various cannabinoids to the nth degree. And it's kind of depressing that we lost a lot of this, and we're only rediscovering it now as we're examining the plant for medicinal again, after, ridiculous purity laws in North America and Europe prevented us from doing so.
And ironically, one of the most important things that cannabis can provide is in the quality that most people that look for this stuff for to inhale, to fumigate, are selecting against is the seeds, right? The seeds are what was originally being selected for, right? To get bigger and bigger seeds, more and more potent seeds, because of their, the quality that we all know that they possess. Their estrogenic, right? So you can use these seeds to control all sorts of gynecological things that I don't fully understand or have any experience needing that, that thing, which is part of the reason, why we've lost it to time, is because people like me have been writing this stuff down. We didn't need the seeds. We wanted to smoke the stuff, right? And that's what we were looking for. But what was selected for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years was the seeds, right? The flower is a byproduct of it. And we just so happen to have this super concentrated stuff. But like, ironically, as we're growing more of this more and more potent flower, we're selecting against the seeds entirely, to the point where it doesn't even have seeds anymore at all. So we're losing like one of the most medicinal parts of this plant that has been selected for originally and was used for, thousands of years before anybody thought to write the stuff down.
No, that's such a good point, right? Like the seeds are almost disregarded by a lot of people. They go, oh, they don't contain THC. Why would we want them? Well, there are many other different compounds and uses for this from a medical perspective, especially, like you said, in gynecological and hormonal balancing. And we know that the Inari were taking these seeds and they were turning them into flowers and other different types of ways of ingesting and using them. They weren't simply just hotboxing this. They were using it in every aspect of their lives. They were also using types of cannabis for the production of cloth. The Scythians are famous for having the first pants and for using all this different types of stuff. And in some of the, Nancy brought this to our attention a while ago, but she found in a Greek document that talked about how Medea invented the first pants.
Nice.
And, and when I look at a lot of the Scythian stuff and they talk about like the removal of the breast by these Amazonian women, they only say it's ever one, but I would imagine that this is probably more of a trans rite, and that these are people who are transitioning into becoming men, and they're probably removing both of the breasts, because we understand that transgender people, especially who are born, feminine, this is a huge issue for them. And it doesn't make sense to only remove a single one if you need to like fire a bow. Your chest is not an issue for firing bows. We have plenty of incredible women archers, but they are an issue if you're trying to undergo a transition, And we have that one burial where we have a Scythian person who has both of the breasts removed, is wearing a fake beard, and is buried on a horse. And people have thought it was a man for years, but it's actually they did the genetic testing through DNA samples they were able to collect in the bones, and they found that this was actually a woman. Welcome back, Dion. You're out of the garden. How's it going?
Yeah. My phone died. Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. We're just glad that you made it back. Oh, we got our good friend Raz in the house as well. How are you doing, Raz?
Howdy.
Love to see you in the horns. Amazing. And you're at the piano. Wonderful.
I love those horns. Okay,
He's,
hi. I
he's
love
always at
those
the piano.
horns.
That's Wrath.
Yep.
Always at the piano. And we go back here and we look at our Orphic hymn to Dionysus Bacchus, right? He's described as two-horned, right? Ivy crowned and pure. Beautiful stuff. So perfect for Saturnalia. And you're smoking. Love it. So how are you enjoying your Saturnalia?
It's fine.
It's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, I had a business idea that I wanted to pitch to everybody. I was going to make phallic-shaped guitar picks, and I was going to call them dick picks. I was just curious, anybody thought that there was any, would this be profitable? Is this a good idea? Is this something I should pursue in the new year? I don't know. Maybe. Sharks? What do you think?
Just test the water and send a few out there. See what response you get.
I've always gotten good response to my dick pics because I'm Hungarian and Welsh, but I don't know if everybody else has had that experience. So,
I got a question for Roz. Are you gonna play that instrument there? Can we hear that?
Sure. Why not?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I would definitely buy them and start and go down the road during, say, New Year's Eve, my birthday, and just throw them out the window in the old city where all the musicians.
That was lovely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
That was beautiful.
Very nice, very nice.
Actually, it has 3 movements. In case you wanted to hear the others.
I had 3
Yeah.
movements today.
If you
So
want
very
to-
healthy. I'm in one with Demeter. She's providing me a very fibrous diet, very regular. It's a blessing. Thank you.
You're supposed to have as many bowel movements as you have meals throughout the day, apparently.
Yes, that's true, Eric. Yeah. People tell me they don't move anything for days. I'm like, there's something going on. Get out. Senna. Drink some Senna.
No, that was wild.
You're
Fantastic.
Hang on, just a sec here. I like this one. This movement's probably my favorite of the 3.
My bird's loving your music.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Loved it. Loved it. Thank you so much. And welcome, Nancy. Thanks for joining. How's it going, Nancy?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. Well, in a development just too weird for words, what you just heard, right, would be the sonata in C major, K545 from Mozart. Would that be correct?
Yes, that was the second movement, first and second movement.
The craziest thing, I've been reading the Manual of Harmonics, and referenced in the commentary in one of the chapters is that very piece of music. And the commentary basically says that because Pythagoras was able to craft a scale for us, that very piece of Mozart was made possible. It's just too weird. I've been thinking about that piece of music for the last, 2 weeks since I started reading this book, so I had to jump in.
That's incredible. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Yes,
amazing.
Thank you, Nancy. That's beautiful.
I knew that piece was magic, but wow, Pythagorean.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm reading about how the scale we know of having 8 notes, how Pythagoras was able to figure out how to take 2/4 and then add the 8th note to make it a 4th and a 5th. And so I think, I'm not entirely sure about all this, I think he crafted the scale from E to E with B flat in there. And if you slide that over to E, F, G, A, C, slide that over to B, C, D, E, G, you've got the beginning of the Mozart piece that was just played, which is wild.
That is so wild. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What do you think about all that, Raz?
Pythagorean tuning, I believe it was, you would go up by a ratio of a perfect fifth, which this is not going to be exactly that because this is equal temperament, but you would go up a fifth and you go up another fifth. And if that's above an octave, you go down 1 octave by cutting it in half. But yeah, if you can do that an infinite number of times and get an infinite number of notes within 1 octave, is the issue with Pythagorean tuning.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is not the tuning per se. It's just the conceptualizing and finally coming up with an octave. So, So the author, the translator of this book, is making the claim that because Pythagoras was able to make an octave for us, that very piece of music was made possible, which is wild.
Yeah, that is wild. That's so interesting to think about, and how all of this is it's all interrelated, Beautiful.
Yeah. There's one more movement here. This is like the iffiest of the 3. But let's see.
Snappy, I just sent you something.
one's kind of tricky. Yeah, that one I've had the least practice on of the 3 movements.
Well done. Thanks for playing us and getting through those 3 movements. Very nice.
Yeah, beautiful. Loved it. Thank you for sharing so much.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous.
I gotta track down.
Mandy, I got your message. It's going to take me a second to transfer the picture over here. I'll try to get it up onto the screen so that you can request people teach us how to pronounce this word. So give me 1 minute here.
I really want to hear this out loud so that we can all feel the spirit of this word and understand that it was first used in this context, and it's important to the ritual that we're all partaking in. And I think, as with all words, word magic, we have to hear it out loud to really feel the vibration and to feel the effect and to, feel the word resonate with us. We can look at the word on paper and see the squiggly the lines in Greek, but we can never feel the squiggly air that moves through us. And this word really, really embraces it. It really invokes what it is that we're celebrating here at this festival. I was trying my best to stretch while we're waiting for this to upload. I'm not good with technology. I am a Neolithite, so I don't have a full grasp on how long it takes for technology to do its thing.
All right, I think I got it here. Yeah, so the word, we were already talking about it today. It's from Hipponax, and Hipponax was a satirist, and this is a word that they actually coined. So let me find it here. If I go present, sorry, I'm kind of like the least technological person imaginable. So here we go.
I challenge you on that one.
So this is the word, and we were wanting to know if Nancy, you had any idea, or anyone else in the chat who's familiar with Greek had any idea how to pronounce this word, which means interprandial pooper.
I would say Old Boy's got the best Greek pronunciation around, so I defer to him.
Well, you're putting me on the spot there, Nancy. Yours is good too. I'll give it a whirl. So it's Mesegudor Pohestes.
Beautiful. And this is right. One who often retires to defecate in the midst of a meal so that he may fill himself up again. And this was, like we said, first said in relation to the Cronia festival, which is the same as the later Saturnalia. So,
and it's an agricultural festival, so you're taking a break to fertilize and to embrace that spirit to make room for another harvest. And the word satire itself derives from the Latin word, which means a mixed plate, which is when you go to these. Yeah, when you go to these Dionysian festivals, you take a little of that, take a little of this, and a little of that, and a little of this. It means a fruit platter.
I'm reminded of a word that's part of the Greek theater. In the Roman theaters, it's off to the side. It's the walkway when you get to the chairs. It's called the vomitorium.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, other people have heard of this.
Yeah.
And some people posit that it's where you go after you've been drinking too much. You go and you vomit so you can come back and drink some more.
Yeah, the Romans they used to do that too, but they would bring people over because they would lay in beds. But they would they either had the room or they would bring children with the big pots, and then they would just puke their food, puke their wine, and then go downtown again.
Yeah, this is at the orgies you're talking about.
Yeah.
Which were these massive feasts, and part of the feast was you were supposed to eat as much as possible, and then you'd go get sick or go to the washroom, and you come back and do more.
My book is actually a performance art piece where I'm very, very lactose intolerant. So I ate grilled cheese sandwiches and took a heroic dose of mushrooms and wrote whatever came off out of myself while I was doing in the purge process of the mushroom trip. So when you read the essays in my book, it's a performance art piece, and I reveal some of this in it, but you kind of have to piece it together. And all of these satire stuff, like these are people that were farmers. These are agricultural festivals. These are people that are used to being ankle deep or knee deep in poop, right? Like poop isn't a scary thing when you're a farmer. Like it's actually a really good thing. That's where the mushrooms come from, the mushrooms.
In Spain, in the nativity scene, they always have a little man that is shitting in the back. Like there's Jesus, then there is Mary, Joseph, like the whole gang, right? But then on the side, there's always this man like shitting on the stable, and I think it's just the funniest thing ever. I've never seen it in any other countries except like in Spain and Latin America. They have a little man taking a dump. By the right next to Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, and I never got over that.
Is he wearing a sindon or not?
No, but he's wearing a little red cap. Like he looks so out of place because he's dressed up like the Basque people. They usually wear like a red cap, like the
You're referring to the Phrygian cap. This is a deep mystery because we were talking about this earlier. The Phrygian cap is associated with Dionysus and with Mithras. And it was also, the Romans would, after they freed a slave, they would shave his head and give him one of these Phrygian caps as a sign of their freedom. And you weren't allowed to re-enslave them afterwards. And this is part of the reason why the Phrygian cap became associated with the revolution in France and in other places. And Mandy's book has a Phrygian cap.
Well, in our culture, for us, the little red cap is associated with we don't have we don't really have a word for it, but it's closer to elves, like little elves. That's what, because that the only people that I've seen believing in elves, like actual elves, is like the Spanish and then us. But for us, they're so weird because they're still very foreign, but they're still part of our culture. So every time you see like somebody have a little red cap, like the one in the Smurfs but red, that would be an elf, and that they would be associated with kidnapping children. They would be associated with magic and mushrooms. So
the Norse also believe in elves, right? And so did the Celts.
Yeah, it's so weird because I've never seen other culture.
To this day, because you got to remember, a lot of the parts of Scandinavia and northern England were not fully colonized, until very, very, very late. So a lot of that tradition survives, especially in Iceland. Iceland, when they had their crusades, they did even have a witch burning at one point, but originally when they first adopted Christianity, we even have the documents where you only had to profess Christianity in public. You were allowed to maintain the rites in private. And this is why Snorri Sturluson and a lot of the bards survived, and that bardic tradition was able to be maintained so late and written down so late. And why we regard it as authentic, because they never suffered under a crusade or a colonization as we would consider it. It was more about joining in with the rest of the Scandinavian Empire and receiving the benefits of protection.
Yeah, and that whole culture, the Viking Age, you're sort of looking at the, 9 to 1100 sort of period. It's relatively late, and they were still openly heathens, hadn't taken Christendom then. It's relatively late in the grand scheme of things, isn't it?
It's very late, and like there is still it's debated, but there are still people in, like when I went to Iceland, I went to the Viking Museum, and then I went to this place. They have an elf actual like school where people learn like fairy magic and whatnot. And some of this is debated by scholars, but the people there claim to have unbroken magical traditions of witchcraft and elf worship. And there are many stones throughout Iceland that are designated elf homes. and you're not allowed to touch them. You're not allowed to sit on them, and they're not even demarcated, because even to demarcate them would be to disturb the elves. It's just like culturally significant. But when we were walking around with friends who are Icelandic, they're like, yeah, don't go sit on that rock or people will be annoyed with you, because it's a special place. Just interesting stuff. There's so much magic that has managed to survive,
Have you seen the ice cave that's in Iceland? I think it's called Satirist.
I never got to see it, but I did hear talk of it. What do you know about this, old boy?
Well, it's named after Surtur, the fire deity that I mentioned earlier, and they were apparently they did a test. They did tests on it in the early, maybe 2010, 2015, that kind of period. And they went in there because there was lots of folk tales about how they used to do pagan sacrifices there. And some explorers in the 1800s, they reckon they'd found bits of a wall in there and stuff like that. So they did a proper study of it, and they found animal bones in piles. They found a big communal bed in there that was like 14 foot wide, an internal wall, and then there was a boat-shaped area inside the cave, and then there was a little shrine as well where they'd been performing sacrifices and leaving, libations and stuff like that. And they concluded that the animals were sacrificed in a ritual fashion as well, and it was carried on for a very long time out of the eyes of the public, because it's in an isolated place. So, but very interesting place. Really should have a look into it. It's really interesting.
That's wild. Yeah, I have to look more into that. Iceland is such a magical, incredible place. When I went for the Summer Solstice Festival. They have like a massive musical concert there every year. And we went to go see Radiohead. And that was one of the most magical things I've ever experienced, because during the solstice time, they don't have a full night. It stays twilight. It stays that magical time that the Greeks and other people talk about. So for the entire time I was there, it was just this kind of like really intense feeling because of the energy of the air, and just everyone was kind of feeling it. Like when we were in the festival, it was really kind of madcap. People were all going wild. It's such an interesting place too. Very expensive though, to buy food and to buy things. But they have this open policy where you can just go camping everywhere, as long as you're not disturbing someone's personal property. You can even camp on someone's private property. You're just not allowed to disturb or make a fire pit or anything. So we traveled around the country over a course of a week and just camped wherever we wanted. We rented a car and just went to town, brought a lot of our own food, and it was amazing. I highly recommend people visit Iceland. It's a magic place.
I was fortunate enough to actually get married over there. That's where I got married. It was just amazing. The scenery is just perfect.
It's such the scenery there. It's also like for such a small place, they have such a diversity of landscapes. Like you can go see tundra, you can go see the black fjords, which are these like volcanic ash that stretches for miles. And it's like this volcanic rock. It's just beautiful. Or you can go into the middle of the country to like the forests. They've largely been rebuilt, but they're still the Thingvellir. It's such an amazing place. I got to do this thing there, which was so impressive, where we went snorkeling into these waters where almost nothing lives. The water is pure. The only thing that comes in there are some fish for their babies, and then the fish go back out to the ocean. But the water is pure. You can drink it. And we were able to touch, when you go deep down enough, you can touch the two tectonic plates, the North American and the European tectonic plate. It's really, really cool. And this was also where they had like the Thingvellir is where they would have like these Viking sort of the first courts and the first like where they would come together and they would make decisions and stuff. And they would also do in the early times pagan rituals. And they've maintained a lot of the structure there. And it's just incredible to see.
Sorry, as the king of Saturnalia, I had to briefly christen my throne with some thunder from down under. But I apologize if you covered this when I was gone. Did we talk about mistletoe? Has that been mentioned yet? And the significance of mistletoe?
No, you should bring this up. That's interesting.
Well,
Semen.
Oh, sorry. Who just jumped in? I want to talk about mistletoe, and I think it has something to do with Vikings and stuff. I know it has all sorts of different meanings, and some of the ways that it's actually described. It can't be the actual mistletoe that we know of, because it's not in season at that time, and all of those things. But it could be poetic. I don't know anything about it, and it's not the particular culture that I study, but I do know that it has all sorts of esoteric meanings and double meanings and triple meanings and stuff.
Well, it's because the berries, they turn white, with a white substance that resembles semen up down to the swirls that sometimes semen gets. When you explode the mistletoe, it would even drip that color. So it's not completely homogeneous, but it's like it almost seems like when semen starts to get liquidy. I don't know if you ever, you're a guy, you probably know, but because there is because semen is not water soluble. So when semen is contained, it's released from the testicles. It is a mixture of both seminal fluids and the actual strings, because it comes out of the males as a string. Actually, you can notice it when there is a male that has been really dehydrated, and they ejaculate. It comes in strings. It does not detach from the chain, because it's a chain. It's a little chain. So the mistletoe resembles that same thing. When it matures and you explode it, it drips in the same manner as the cane semen. That's all I know.
Do you know what the left testicle said to the right testicle?
What?
There's a vast difference between us.
Wow, Mandy.
Right, everyone, I'm going to have to take off now.
Thank you for coming for as long as you did. It was great chatting with you, and thank you for bestowing us with your wisdom. Always fun chatting with you, old boy.
Anytime. Enjoy the rest of the Saturnalia festivities. It's been great chatting to you all, and hopefully chat to you all soon.
Yo, Saturnalia, take care, my friend.
Yo, Saturnalia, take care.
I think I have to follow up that joke. Do you know what Salome's most favorite foreigner song is?
No.
Head Games.
Tish, right?
Oh, man.
On that note, I too have to go, but Snappy and DM, thank you for all the stuff that you guys do. Your podcasts are just the highlight of my Sunday, so I just really appreciate them. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to jump in and share with us about the harmonics. That was really wonderful stuff. Really appreciated. We know you're not the most open person, so we're really thankful that you did come. So thanks.
Thank you. Take care, you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Nancy.
I was working at this restaurant once, and I'm not a very strict chef. I don't have a lot of arbitrary rules. I'm not good at being the king of Saturday when I boss people around and everything. And I was explaining to my crew, I had only one arbitrary rule, and that is no Journey songs in the kitchen. Right? Once the person starts singing "Don't Stop Believing," and everybody starts singing "Don't Stop Believing," and it gets chaotic, and I don't. So I was explaining that to my crew, and my sous chef, she goes, "But I lost my virginity to Journey," and I was like, "Oh wow, what song?" And she goes, "The bass player."
Which one was it? Randy from because he was their stand-in bass player after the 70s there. Randy from American Idol. I don't know who the original guy was, but wow. That's funny. Oh my god.
What's everybody sipping on? Who's sipping on anything right now? Who's got a drink? Dion, what are you sipping on?
I got a Warsteiner, a German beer that's brewed to German purity standards, if you know about that.
We were
So
just
it's got none of the fun stuff in it.
No ergot at all. 100% guaranteed.
Not today. Not today.
You know, it's funny you bring up again that the German purity standard. I'm trying to remember the video, but I saw this video on YouTube. It was by like a German philosopher who was talking about Germanic culture and just this idea of purity and how it begins with these purity rites involving the beer, and then it becomes this fascination with morality through philosophers like Kant and whatnot, and it gets more and more intense into this idea of trying to create the Superman, the Ubermensch, the perfected person, and then it becomes an absolute ridiculous farce of itself with the rise of fascism and Hitler, until now they have to kind of reset and rethink and re-examine their purity and these purity laws in the modern times. But it's an essential idea of the Germanic character, you know, and it's like we were saying, it's some of the earliest Germanic writing is about maintaining the purity of beer, you know. So a good glass of beer, and like here's the thing too, what they call beer in Germany is not what we would even consider beer necessarily in Canada and the US. They have far stricter guidelines. Like Budweiser is not a German beer. It has to be wheat based, and it can only contain, I think it's like so many couple ingredients, and that's it.
Yeah, it's down to the primal ingredients: water, hops, and they want the water to come from a pure well or spring. But it's funny that you said that, because I could see there is a kind of fascism in the beer brewing. It evolves out of and they actually call it the beer purity law.
Yeah, well, it's the striving for purity, right? Which in some ways there's the beauty in this idea of self-perfection and self-development and character. Like Mandy and I love Nietzsche, and we recognize that Nietzsche is not, even though he's talking about the Ubermensch, he's kind of making a joke about the strive for purity. And it's unfortunate that this becomes an overly stressed characteristic of the Germanic people, to the point where it becomes an extremism that results in violence, because, you know, there is something beautiful about the striving for personal perfection, but when you take it to apply to everyone outside of the self, this is a huge, ridiculous insanity, you know?
Check this out. I see that Roz is playing his piano. Would it be possible to hear some more? And could someone read a poem on top of that beautiful piano playing?
Oh,
Am I asking for too much on Saturnalia?
You do a little mixed plate action? Ooh.
Oh, there's so many beautiful artists on screen here. I mean, rolling through. Why not?
Is he muted? Russ.
Oh, I had a hardware mute on. Oops. But yeah, we can try that if someone's got a poem they want to try to match this rhythm.
Together we stride with held high through the poise of life and death. It is time to end this immense suffering. It is time to construct the new reality. From Beautiful stuff, Raz. Beautiful stuff. Loved it.
That is Bagatelle in A minor. That's the second version of For Elise. So both versions were unreleased. He didn't release either during his lifetime. And he was going to release this one, but then pulled it at the last second because he thought it wasn't good enough.
Wow. Talk
And
about
was he-
being a perfectionist.
Question. Was he
Exactly.
12 years old? How old was he when he wrote that?
He was in his 20s or 30s when he wrote it the first time. It's called For Elise, but it could be Therese. It's like an obsessive kind of motif because he was obsessed with some aristocrat lady who, rebuffed his advances.
Mm-hmm.
The rationale given was that even though he was a famous composer in his day, he was rejected because he was ugly and half mad.
Do you like Solari?
So what?
Is his name Solari? The guy who tried to kill him?
That's just the movie, right? Great movie. Amadeus is a great movie. But as far as we know, Salieri and
Salieri, thank you.
yeah, they were cool with each other. You know?
Can you weigh on this, Raz? Did he is he a victim of the choke jerk conspiracy? Did he also die from choke jerking and they covered it up?
Erotic asphyxiation.
Yeah, if you want to speak Greek.
Let's just say he and what's that guy from The Whitest Kids You Know? They're probably in the same place right now.
I can play a song for you guys. I can't really move my camera, but this is a thing I wrote called the Hymn to Rhea. So. This is a little short thing.
Since we're messing around, do you have any more of your poetry out or any poems ready?
I can get something out here.
That's right. And let me show you what I got right here. This is a pirate's box. You can see, huh?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cajon.
But yeah, that's right. That's a cajon / pirate's box. And I'm going to give y'all a beat, and I want to hear some lyrics.
Oh, this is Mandy and Shaleb's department then. Can you freestyle, Mandy?
I don't freestyle. I tell stories. I'm a storyteller.
I tell stories with a lot of glory. It won't be boring. I won't leave you all snoring.
Hey.
That's funny. This is a poem I wrote the other day. It's called The Hymn to Melitet. I rack my hands as I mold myself like clay. I twist and squirm under the pressure of a new way. I fail to grasp, to hold, or to create. I try again and again, and I learn along the way. Each failure of grace, with each attempt I replace that which obstructs with what generates. Ever moving forward, never looking back. I push and pull and throw myself into the black. With practice I learn, with practice I transform. Through practice alone, a skill is born. Mastery of self, affirmation through growth. I fight against the mundane with the newness of strife. Try another method, imagine a better life. Recreate your being in the image of the divine.
Love it.
Okay. Twist my arm. I'll do one. I'll do one. It goes like this. It's irony like Kropotkin in the used bin. A minor key an octave higher than this tunes in. The only reason I got the vaccine was to psychoanalyze my fever dreams. Because some people are better off dead, and some things are better left unsaid. As easy as A to Z off with their heads. You know what I mean? No?
That's cute.
There's this other one that goes like this. I'm from a red county in a blue state. Mandy, I came here to do two things, but bubblegum makes my teeth hurt. They say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't yell at a neither. I'm from the land of cat calls and dog whistles, check engine lights and virtue signals. I'm from the land of whole milk and old money. You don't go killing all the bees if you're out to get the honey. I got a 1997 Buick LeSable for sale as is. I hope they release the documents on a bridge. You know what they say about New England weather? Wear layers, like an onion. You know what I mean? No.
Whoa.
No. Hey.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I can actually rap. Yeah.
Bars.
Hey. There was a little purple reference in there for those that want to go back and dissect that one. That was. I don't do that without my voice on, but yeah. I just did a show in New Haven on Wednesday, and I was just dragging tongue and all over the Yale campus. It was a lot of fun. And for some reason, people that find themselves at this particular bar on the Yale campus actually understand some of the weird stuff that I'm saying. So like they'll come up and talk to me afterwards, like, "Hey, what the hell were you saying there?" I was like, just kind of, making fun of them for being like so into what I'm actually saying and not just like embracing the fact that you're supposed to be dancing and feeling the beat. Like what it is that I'm saying is gibberish. Everything I just said was incoherent gibberish. I just said it rhythmically. It's complete incoherent gibberish. I didn't say anything at all. Sorry.
Oh no, it's fun.
I'm not sorry at all.
Our friend here, Apple, is asking, do you think the guy that made the synthesizer a household tool knew he was creating brain worms? I don't know about the guy who specifically made it, but I know I was watching this documentary on Mort Gorson, who is one of the first players of the Moog. He actually played the first Moog ever produced and was friends with Moog directly. And he was very much a wizard. He has some wild mystical albums you guys can all find on YouTube. One of them is called Artarxia. He also did a song for the plants, really cool dude, Mort Garson. So, yeah.
are you familiar with Wendy Carlos?
Oh, yeah, for sure, right? Trans Icon, one of the first synthesizer users as well. She made all kinds of music for film and commercials. Wonderful performer and musician. Doesn't get near enough credit. Yeah, love it. As if you know. Well, I should know you're a music geek, so.
Yeah, I love it. I love music, cooking, and history.
There you go. So, Mandy, what kind of...
I want to show you something. Check this thing out that I just got. I haven't been able to show you.
We got magic tricks. What you got? Ooh.
Ooh, 3 pickups. Whoa. Yeah, Mandy, you also have a punk band, don't you, with your brother,
that's
eh?
one of the new acts. Look at this thing. Isn't it sweet?
That's sick.
Yeah, it's got gold hardware and everything on it.
Left-handed.
It's not left-handed. Sorry.
You're just holding it left-handed?
Jimi Hendrix.
I thought you were left-handed. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, it's actually funny. My brother's left-handed, and all of his instruments I actually learned how to play. So I learned how to play literally everything upside down, and had to relearn how to play like right-handed. So like I know how to play left. When I play bass, it's only left-handed. I can't fucking do it on a right-handed bass. It's because like the low string is low. So it kind of flips your brain a little bit to have to think, because it's like intuitive to go low when you're going low and to go high when you're going high. So you're literally taking the experience and flipping it. So it's really, really, really bizarre way to, and I can still only play drums, left-handed. So like wide open instead of, which when you're doing blast beats and stuff like that, it actually makes it way easier. Cause you're not like, hitting your wrist or, hitting your knuckles or anything. You can you're wide open like that. Blah, 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 blah. Like some, like old jazz drummers, they used to put the snare drum in the middle instead of off to the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Trad kits are all like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I learned how to play everything left-handed because I was just using my brother's equipment until I, was able to afford my own.
Wild. Love that.
Yeah.
Are the strings backwards?
No, when I play his instruments, they're backwards. Yeah, because he plays them too. When normally, yeah, you know what I mean.
All right, because with a regular guitar, the top string is the low E, right? So if you're doing it the other way around, is the top string still the low E with your left hand?
So if you actually like literally think about it, like like the way that I learned because I was using my brother's left-handed guitars, the low strings were the low strings, right?
Oh.
So like it's a weird way to like physically interact with the guitar that like you don't get that experience, and it is so much easier when you're playing like drop D and stuff because then you're just doing bars and shit. And then when you're doing solos, you're on the high strings. The high strings are high. Like I might even have. Yeah, hang on. I got his guitar over here. Check out. Can you see it? So this is he's got like a 7-string solar, and it's the low strings are low, and then when you're high, they're high. It's a physical way to interact with the guitar.
That is different.
It's so weird. Like when I record stuff on my brother's guitars, it sounds like Zappa and shit. And when I record stuff on my guitars, it's all like Apollonian. It's very, very.
But if you were to play it like a left-handed way with picking with your left hand instead of with your right hand, then it would be more or less just a mirror image, right?
Yeah, I don't restring them or anything because I'm just using my brother's instruments.
Okay.
So I literally pick it up strung left-handed and play it left-handed.
Check this out, Dion. 2 Christmases ago, a friend of mine tried to buy me a cajon. They thought they got a real good deal, that it was only going to be $10, and they got me a mini cajon. They didn't bother to check the dimensions. So came from China, $10 mini cajon.
That's cool.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good too.
That's the drum that you sit on?
Yeah, you're supposed to sit on.
Yeah. I was before I went to school, I was hanging out in Hawaii on Waikiki, and I would hang out with all these buskers and sit on one of those and play drums while they were playing stuff. And one night we were just busking, and it was like had to be like 1 a.m. outside of this bar. Some guy comes over, he's like, "Hey, you guys sound good. Can I play along?" And they just go back and forth with like blues riffs and and stuff, just kind of riffing, improvising. And a whole crowd, just like the crowd gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what? It's like, they sound okay. Like, it doesn't sound amazing, but like they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the guy's like, oh, hey, that was fun. And then just took the stuff out of his guitar case and put it in the guitar players and said, thanks for jamming. That was great. And, he stops, he goes, hey, do you know who that guy was? I was like, no, who the fuck was that guy? He goes, that was Jack Johnson. Like the banana pancakes guy. Like, I don't know. I've never heard Jack Johnson other than like one like just I know that he has a song about banana pancakes, and I didn't even look it up after that. But I was just sitting on one of those weird little drums jamming with my friend, and Jack Johnson comes up and plays.
That dude is legit. He makes a lot of lame pop music now, or less than ideal pop music, but he has some really good musical roots, and he does a lot of stuff that's not mainstream as well. If you dig into his catalog, great singer-songwriter.
Yeah, I like his Recycle song.
Yeah,
he was a busker, and that's like that's one way to fucking experience making music. You know what I mean?
Street music,
It's like starting off as a dishwasher and working your way up to executive chef and being on the Food Network. It's like you know what I mean? Like, unless you're you can tell the people who have done it, right? That authenticity is still still weaves through their music, even if it's pop music. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. A lot of these pop artists are pretty legit, but they do, they have to get paid, and yeah, it's like academics, right? Not all of them can be Ronin.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many of these academics are also industry plants, if you're going to carry forward that terminology and the metaphor to pop music. You know what I mean?
Right.
How many of these people had a helping hand through their dissertation and through their college experience all the way till they're publishing books? They're just repeating and regurgitating somebody else's work and getting a helping hand all the way through. The nepotism in academia, it reeks of it.
Yeah, well, nepotism is everywhere, right? Nepotism is everywhere. And it's weird with music because sometimes seriously legit bands also benefit from like intense nepotism. Like, I think a perfect example I think of is the Strokes. Like, they're an awesome garage rock band, very talented musicians, but they're nepo babies. So it is what it is. Sometimes it's like it's a weird thing. But some of these people who get all of that support don't deserve it for sure.
Oh, you're from Canada, right?
Yeah.
What's that? The guy that wears the hat, who goes to the record store and interviews all those people.
Nardwuar.
Yeah, Nardwuar. Okay, have you seen his interview with?
Because you can't get it in America.
Have you seen his interview with Doja Cat?
I have not.
It's so insane. He pulls out a CD that Doja Cat's dad was the producer on. Amazing. And it's just like, it's such a deep cut, like just a random, like it wasn't a popular, like a huge hit or anything, but he was a producer on this particular album. And she's like, how the hell did you find this? Like, no one knows this about her. And it's like, it took Nardwuar to kind of reveal a little bit of that was going on. You know what I mean? And
he's notorious for that. He's got so many cool ones where he does that deep. One of my favorite ones is when he does with Pharrell. And he's interviewing Pharrell, and he's just like, he shows like this classic 80s hip hop album. Then he shows an album of like Carl Sagan. And then he shows him an album of, I think it's Mort from Orc. And he's like, these three things equal Pharrell. And Pharrell just like, is like, he's like, yeah, that's my entire childhood summed up in 3 albums. That's why I'm a musician. It's really, you all should watch it. It's such a good interview. And it actually led to them collaborating for a long time. And that's how he got his interview with Jay-Z. He'd been trying to get Jay-Z for years, and then Pharrell hooked them up.
Yeah, it takes a satirist to navigate that network, you know? You have to prove yourself.
He's gotten so many crazy... He got an interview with Kurt Cobain at the height of his fame when he wasn't interviewing anyone. You know, it's like how he manages to pull this stuff out is insane. And you got to love him too for all this shtick. You know, it catches people off guard. You know, and so many interviews are just boring. They ask the same questions over and over again. And he's like, "Here, I have a gift for you. You know, this is something you loved as a kid, or here's some musician you loved, or here's something your family member did." Or it's like, what?
I remember his he did a one with Tyler the Creator, and Tyler the Creator was like, "Are you with the feds? Like, who are you?"
Right? Some of his best ones, if you got, because you guys are both hip hop nerds, are with Questlove, because he just like keeps throwing out all this ridiculously underground Philly stuff that only Questlove would know, and you just listen to Questlove just start laughing and freaking out. You know, it's great stuff.
How's he getting that information in Canada? How'd that make it across the border? You know.
This guy, he's like such a music geek, it's not even funny. He did an interview with the Circle Jerks where he shows a t-shirt that he handmade when he was 16 going to a Circle Jerk show. It's wild. But yeah, I love Nardwuar. Canadian icon. But yeah, what a weird tangent to go down. But yeah, definitely a magician of sorts and a satirist, you know. Yeah, Doja Cat is a next level Nepo baby. So is Grimes. So is Ariana Grande. Yeah. So is even like Alanis Morissette. You know, a lot of people don't know that she had like a tween kind of early 90s girl pop era of like the worst kind of cheesy girl pop you've ever heard, where it's like very much of that era of the early 90s before she like went out on her own and did the alt rock stuff with Jagged Little Pill. And it's like, I remember this because I was of that age, and it was all over Much Music, which is our version of MTV. But like, it's so cringy. She had like the big bangs and everything. You can find it on YouTube. Yeah, Narwhal always interviews Henry Rollins. They've done like several, but Henry Rollins is kind of a dingus, you know. I judge musicians by how they treat Nardwuar, and it's a mixed bag between them. He gets super angry about stuff all the time. He's a great storyteller. Henry Rollins, I've seen him twice do his talks, and they're a lot of fun, but he's a really intense weirdo at the same time.
I saw him speak in Providence one time, and he was like, "This is the worst city in the world when it's snowy. Like, it's the most miserable place when there's snow out. Like, it's just anybody who's been to Providence, Rhode Island, and or on the Brown University campus in the snow, it's a goddamn miserable place." So he was just kind of speaking some truth, and so many people were offended by him. And my friend, we went to the record store right before because he forgot his he thought he had his crate of records in the trunk, and we get to the venue, open the trunk because he wants to be a nerd and have Henry Rollins sign his record, and he doesn't have the records. So we went to the record store, grabbed one, and the only one they had was one of the ones that he didn't sing on. So I was like, I'll buy it. That'll be hilarious. I'll give it to Henry Rollins to sign. Like, I do not care that. Like, I was just like making fun of him to his face. Like, hey, sign this. It's like, I wasn't on this, right? I was like, yeah, it's for my friend. You forgot his at home. Like, I just think that was the only interaction I've ever had with the guy, other than at Warped Tour one year. We were supposed to play in this like tent that was outside, kind of by where in the parking lot. So as you were waiting to get into the parking lot, they would have local bands play. And for some reason there was a miscommunication. So we played like some punk rock stage that was right there. And I come around looking for the urinals, the porta potties or whatever. And I see Henry Rollins just squat thrusting, like behind doing workouts, squat thrusting. And I made eye contact with him, and he looked at me and just continued to squat thrust. It's like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, what an interesting guy, I love if you ever seen some of the interviews or talks he's given with like Ian MacKay talking about their childhood. It's so funny. He used to manage a Baskin Robbins, and he got the call to like just go out to LA to be in Black Flag, and he took the risk. And you got to give him props for that. I still think he's not the best Black Flag singer, but he's a great musician. Rise Above is an amazing song. He did some really cool stuff. And he's a really intense, wild dude.
I mean, if you understand what he was doing, it was making fun of how pretentious his audience became. You know what I mean? Like he just came in and just like started making fun of his audience to their faces. Like they were playing music that they knew the audience wasn't gonna like just slow, droney, like drawn out, and that had just like random like jazz drum breaks and stuff. And like he's over there doing spoken word. And it's like they're at a hardcore show. They want to mosh. Like they're gonna get punched in the face for this shit. And he's like, no, I'm gonna do it anyway. Like,
well, he came from the hardcore scene in Washington, which was intense, but like he was part of the In Crew with Ian MacKaye and whatnot, you know, and so it was more love and brotherliness and positive mental attitude. You know, they were all influenced by the bad brains out there, you know, and they all had their shaved heads, and it was that straight edge kind of thing. But then when he goes to LA, it's like he talks about how first show and someone punches him right in the face. Welcome to LA. He's getting spit on. And he's quickly like, I'm giving up the whole shaved head thing, because out here it has a very different meaning, you know? And that's when he started like just embracing the antagonism, growing his hair out long, writing that sludge music. Like Family Man, I think, is probably the best stuff he did with Black Flag, the spoken word, intense stuff, you know, like you brought up.
Well, you know, that was part, like shocking the audience and disrespecting the audience was sort of part of what you had to do to, you know, to gain respect or anything like that, to maintain your authenticity as a band back then. Like, you know, that band Millions of Dead Cops, the dude would wear a dress the whole time when he was playing and shit. And
well, he's also they're non-binary as far as I understand, and they're queer. And, you know, MDC, yeah, they're radical though, like so radical and vegan, you know.
I saw antagonists. I saw MDC in like 2003 when they went on tour, and we were talking to them. They were like, yeah, you know, I think we played in Providence in 1983. That was the last time we were out here. I was like, what? Like it's been 20 years since you've been out here, and you're playing at like a VFW in Connecticut. Like, what is going? Like, why? What do you mean?
Man, some of those hardcore bands were so insane. I got a biography about DOA a while back, and DOA were like the first hardcore band from Canada to do the massive touring, and they were relentless. They did that regular tour up and down the West Coast for almost 40 years, and they have some just insane stories, playing like for the Hell's Angels, you know. And they wrote their album Hardcore 82 likely is what spawned the entire term in America, you know, a Canadian band. Wild stuff. Or Hardcore 81, sorry.
And you know, it's the differentiation between the Dionysian tendency and the Apollonian tendency. You know, that Dionysian tendency is what hardcore became, and metal is when that Apollonian tendency took hold, and it becomes this very technical thing where you're trying to impress by how well you can on a guitar instead of, you know, capture the energy of a crowd, you know what I mean? And it's very drum based, whereas the drums is what's keeping time instead of what's maintaining the energy in the room. You know, you've been in these rooms, in these hardcore rooms, where, you know, it's basically a dance party. It's a Dionysian dance party.
Oh yeah.
But like, you know, the guitar is just the noise. The vocals are really just the noise. They're the parts that everybody waits for is the gang vocals where you can sing along, you know, like that's the experience that has been maintained, you know, through
there's
the spirit.
Also a big thing in metal. It's about like that power worship. You know, you want to be the guy on stage. You want to, you know, you love these musicians. You worship their technical ability. You worship their image and their prowess. That is like so antithetical to hardcore. You know, like the hardcore guys are spitting on you, or they're getting attacked by their fans. Like, I remember one of the first hardcore shows I went to was this. Was Agnostic Front, and it was just like I got smuggled into this show at 17, you know, and it's just insane. I'd never seen like the big skinhead guys, and people are coming around from like, this was in Ottawa, people were coming from Montreal, so you get these guys who are like 6 feet tall with like massive tattoos on their necks, and this is in the 90s at a time when this was not commonplace. And then the pit was insane. Like they're climbing on top of each other, head walking each other. And I looked at the singer, he's missing one of his front teeth, and it's from getting knocked out because a guy smashed the microphone into his mouth. Just totally different beast. But we shouldn't go too deep into this. We're losing Buffy. How's it going, Buffy? We're losing Shelob.
I've been steadily sipping on my mug, so yeah, gone should be expected at some point.
What did you say was in that mug?
It's a margarita mix, strawberry and lime.
Margarita.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I love it. You recently
you can't
shaved your
tell
head,
the mug,
didn't you?
but it's metallic rainbow mushrooms.
Awesome cup.
Nice. I got mine too.
That's so cool. I love it. I love it. You recently shaved your head, did you not, Buffy? Can we see?
I did.
Love it. That's so badass.
See? Yes.
You look good with short hair.
Thank
giving
you.
Furiosa.
It suits my long ass nose.
Yeah, you look like Furiosa. You got that. What's that? She's such a badass. What's her name? That actress? It's gonna bug me.
Charlize Theron.
Yeah, Charlize Theron. Yeah.
She's beautiful. Woo! Yeah.
But yeah, you underwent the initiation, right?
I did. Mm-hmm.
And you read the Book of Cain. What did you think of the Book of Cain?
Well, I listened to the audio 3 times after
Amazing.
a heavy dose of popcorn infused with some honey.
You don't need to use
It took
coded
me 2
language
days
here.
to recover.
I love it. I love it.
Wild.
Did you speak to the devil? This is what we all want to know.
I'm pretty sure I danced with him and become very intimate.
Oh wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
It
amazing.
seems to be, though, honestly, a reoccurring theme in my life.
What do you
Because
mean?
when I first started on the pagan path in like 1999, I was very seduced by an energy that was around a Ouija board. And then I ended up becoming possessed. And
Beautiful.
I got lured into this type of forgettingness, is what I call it, by a dark figure that wanted to dance with me when I was about 23. So, yeah.
You've been flirting with the devil for a long time.
I'm a Capricorn, y'all. That's what I do.
Yeah. Perot says Buffy and the devil bump and grind.
Yeah. Yes.
Cute. That's too fun. No, that text, Cain a Mystery, we really got to do an audiobook version of it for like our channel, Dion. Get people to come and read. Maybe we can get Ammon to play Lucifer. That would be so wild because we need a proper audio of it. I use the LibriVox one and the recordings are so bad.
The one I listened to, whoever did the voice of Lucifer, was just, it was good.
It was good?
Really good, yeah. I'll post it under the Saturnalia tab.
I can't stop laughing at Mandy and his tiny hand.
I was making fun of the hand earlier, but I don't know if anybody noticed, but I'm like, it puts the lotion on the skin with the little hand.
Oh gosh. Yeah, what is that? Someone else mentioned that scary movie or something. Anyway. Well, we're coming up to the 4-hour mark. How are people feeling?
My tiramisu is thawing out. Unfortunately, it's going to be another 8 hours.
Oh shit.
No, I bought it
for breakfast.
Yeah, I bought it from the store and put it in the refrigerator, and I went right now thinking I was going to get my tiramisu with ladyfingers soaked in rum, and nope. 8 hours till tomorrow.
You can soak your ladyfingers in some rum. They'll get a little pruny, but yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's ironic though? Tiramisu is for breakfast. What it means is pick me up.
Well, it does have coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's pick-me-up breakfast, and it was served in a cup.
I love that.
I knew a lady that loved it
The
so much
goblet?
that's what she named her Great Pyrenees. Tiramisu.
Cute. That would be such a cute dog name.
Mm-hmm.
Tiramisu. Wow. But I'm starting to get pretty exhausted, guys. What are you thinking?
Yeah, we've been going almost 4 hours here. You know, if we could, I would love to, you know, if I'm going to at least 4 o'clock here, another 20 minutes, I would love to hear Roz take us out, you know, or play something nice. You know, I'm sure he's playing right now. We just don't hear him.
Do you want to play first, Raz?
Sure. Let's try this one. Having this chord right here is kind of awkward, so I apologize for that.
No, we completely understand. That was very impressive. Loved it.
one of my favorites there. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who participated today, all the people who showed up earlier. Had so much fun today. And we'll continue the fun in the new year, setting the stage. Interactive events.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Today was unscripted, no rules. Love that. Use that in your life. Be spontaneous in your life.
We'll do more of this in the future going forward. Dion and I have some cool plans for new stuff. We were talking about that Shakespeare episode where we got some more ideas. What were you thinking about? You had mentioned a couple different ideas there for Occult Explorers episodes coming up.
Oh, well, we're going to get some doctors back on the show. Hopefully they can join us again. We're going to get more into the water of life as well as midwifery. We're going to get elongated skulls. The study, I don't know if people are familiar with the cranial deformation, as well as Secret Shakespeare in the beginning of the year. Some other great ones. Pirate episodes dealing with the Caribbean, Jamaican, Haitian voodoo, pirates. A lot of interesting stuff coming.
Yeah, wild stuff. So I want to leave you guys with this. This is called the Hygromentea. This is a prayer to Saturn. And here we go. It says, Lord Saturn, the great and supreme, who created and fashioned man, the abyss saw you and feared. The living saw you and became lifeless. In his name, by his great and mighty power, I conjure you, Saturn. By the night of the heaven and by the depths of the sea, I conjure you, Saturn. Do not disobey me. By your antiquity and by your preeminence, I conjure you, O cold Saturn, who has authority over every harm, who gives treasures and who offers everything. I conjure you again, O Saturn, in your following names: Arfin, Orkip, Uliab, Berik, Urafon, Serok, Timon, Odel, Sigep, Sotad. Grant your grace, your virtue to every work I want to accomplish. So, Mandy, you are our king, our princeps for the day. How do you want to end the stream? What is your final words?
Well, I would like to close by telling the story of the original snub, if you don't mind.
Please.
Does everybody know the story of the original snub?
Never heard it.
Okay, so you actually you'll know this one. It's very, you might not know it by that name, but you'll recognize this one. So the gods, they were having this wedding, and for obvious reasons they didn't invite Eris to this wedding, because she's the goddess of chaos and discord and disrupting things and making things more annoying than they have to be, just to prove the point that they can be, because that's in the spirit of what she does. And because she didn't get invited, what she decided to do was to go into the wedding and toss a golden apple. And the golden apple had the word Khaleesi. Does everybody know what that means in Greek? Anybody?
No. What does it mean?
It means to the most beautiful. So,
of course.
So obviously what happens is the three women at the party decide to start arguing over it. Snappy, you know who the three women that were at the party that started arguing over this apple were, right?
Oh yeah, we have Hera, Aphrodite, and Artemis.
So they started arguing over this apple, and what happened is they went to Zeus because they needed him to mediate and to decide. And what he said is, we're having a party. I'm stepping out of this one. You're going to need one of the humans to do it. So mid-acid trip, this guy, Paris, he's not from France. He's kind of from the Turkey area. He's invoking a little bit of Hecate and a little bit of Medea in this. And he's on this acid trip, and he starts communing with these three goddesses right at the right time. Hermes brings these three goddesses to them. And what they start doing is saying, we need you to decide who this apple goes to, who's the most beautiful. And what do? They start bribing him. So they say, one of them says, we'll give you all the riches in the world. And he goes, my dad's a king. I don't need that. And they go, well, the other one says, well, we'll give you all the land in the world. And he goes, my dad's a king. He'll die. I don't need that. So what does Aphrodite do? She says, we'll give you the most beautiful woman in the world. And he goes, we got a deal. So what happens? Helen. She happens to be the most beautiful girl in the world. And because this is divine by the gods, she gets kidnapped, and then the Trojan War happens. And then we can't eat hot dogs for some reason. So that's the story of the original snub. So always invite chaos to the party, otherwise you're going to get a war.
Good point. Good point. You can't black out the chaos. You need to have that discord even at your parties. And that's so essential to the Saturnian rites and the Saturnian mystery. You have to even the dead come back, right? Even that which has been locked away and relegated to the other will return again. And this is the time of revelry and chaos when Saturn is back. So embrace the revelry and embrace the feasting. Go out and have a good time. Drink and be merry, and don't work for the next couple days. And on the 19th, give praise to Rhea, because that's her day. And then on the solstice, everything comes to an end. And or at least in some days it comes, on some of them it comes on the end on the 21st, and others it came to an end on the 23rd. But I'll be celebrating at least to the 23rd, so you won't see much of me in the next few days. But
I will not stop celebrating because I'm a satirist. So every day is Saturnalia.
Right, every day is Saturnalia. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Raz, for that amazing music. Thank you, Buffy, for coming in and sharing your beautiful love. Thank you, Shelob. We enjoyed seeing you. That was a lot of fun. And thank you, Dion. We loved seeing your garden and for making an incredible pesto. That was cool. And for the beats. Thank you for the beats. Any final words, Dion?
Just have fun. Keep it spontaneous. Life is a mystery. Have fun.
Any final words, Raz?
Not really.
Any final words, Sheila?
Hail Satan.
Any final words, Buffy?
I want to thank everyone in the comments, in the chat. Beautiful people, just amazing people, amazing community.
This has been so much fun. Thank you
Hail
all.
and love to you all.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Peace, love. Hail Satan. We'll see you around. Take care. Enjoy your Saturnalia.